I'm Christina, 25 years old, and I mostly keep to myself. Even though I have a job or study, my family might think I don't because I don't talk about it much, especially my brother. How did I end up like this? Well, it all goes back to my time in middle school when I started feeling like I couldn't trust people. It's not just one thing that caused it, but mostly because I felt ignored. I guess people didn't find me interesting because I was always into machines. I've always enjoyed messing around with computers, and I was pretty good at it, which helped out at home. But then my school grades dropped because I spent more time with computers than with friends, and my parents got worried. When I finished elementary school, my parents started telling me off, saying, "Stop spending so much time with those machines." During middle school, as my parents kept scolding me, I started feeling like I shouldn't pursue my interests. So whenever I had free time from school, I'd hide in my room to avoid my parents, cutting off contact with the outside world. This made more people think I was strange or risky, and I started feeling isolated even at school. The only person who supported me was my brother Keith. He always knew how to cheer me up and keep me going. With his help, I finished school. But I didn't go to high school. Instead, I did computer jobs from home. When I was about 16, I got a part-time job, and with the money I earned, I bought old computers to take apart and rebuild from scratch, just the way I liked. My hobby became a business opportunity, and by the time I hit 20, I was making and selling computers. Soon, I started my own business, offering affordable computers, and became quite well known. By the time I turned 25, I'd made a decent amount of money. I even started contributing $2,500 to my parents' household each month and still had money left over. Even though I tried explaining my job to my parents, they didn't get it. After a few arguments, they decided that as long as I could support myself, they didn't mind what I did. This meant they stopped interfering and I could live as I pleased at home. But my brother still didn't think much of me. My brother used to be my ally, the one who understood me best when I was in school. He was really kind, but maybe he got tired of his sister, who was still at her parents' house tinkering with machines even after turning 20. Over time, he started treating me harshly whenever he saw me. Since I didn't keep quiet about it, we ended up having more conflicts, and now we're not on good terms. Things got even worse after my brother got married. His wife, who we'd known since high school, never really liked me. After hearing about me from my brother, she didn't want to be my sister-in-law and seemed to influence my brother against me. Because of this ongoing situation, I became known as the troublemaker at home. Even though I stayed in my room most of the time, I felt my heart breaking from all the hostility directed at me, which was different from my parents' concerned words. Suddenly, my parents' home, once a cozy sanctuary despite the criticisms, turned into a hostile environment. I no longer felt comfortable there, and it seemed like my parents were being swayed against me while my allies disappeared. Even though I had my own income and contributed to the household expenses, my brother and sister-in-law, who didn't understand my work, saw me as a burden. They started talking about kicking me out and taking over the house. Feeling disconnected from my brother and his plans, I figured leaving wouldn't make much of a difference. Once I found a new place, I wouldn't have to contribute to household expenses anymore, which meant I could save that money instead. It was kind of a silver lining. As I was thinking about moving out, my brother brought up the topic of inheritance out of the blue. He seemed to think that our parents' financial comfort, despite my lack of a traditional job, was due to their wealth. So when the idea of me leaving came up, he suggested, "Since we'll be taking care of Mom and Dad, we should inherit their assets. You should give up your share of the inheritance." But the truth was, the reason our parents could enjoy their lives without working was because I was covering their living expenses. I didn't think they could manage without that money, but my brother saw me as nothing but a burden in my room. Despite feeling like leaving was the best option, I decided to ask one more time out of kindness. "Are you really okay with me leaving?" I asked. My brother just laughed and said, "We'd be happy if you left already." It became clear once again how little he understood. I felt sorry for him and his wife, which made me even more determined to leave. A few days later, I was still in my room, and my brother and sister-in-law were relentless in their efforts to get me out. They kept knocking on my door, convinced Mom to stop cooking for me, and even told me to do my own laundry. But these were all things I'd have to do if I lived alone anyway. I wasn't going to just sit back and let them take my place away from me without a fight. Sure, I wasn't happy about it, but I wasn't about to accept it either. I was being unfairly pushed out, and I wasn't going to take it lying down. After all, I'm skilled with machines, something my brother seemed to forget. He didn't realize the power I had with a computer at my disposal. I wasn't the type to quietly obey orders and leave. My brother's marriage, with me as the reclusive sister, was the only chance for our parents to have a grandchild. They were so focused on that, they didn't see how wrong it was for me to leave. So I decided to set up a little surprise for them, a trap that would spring into action as soon as I left the house. After finding a new place to live and completing all the necessary procedures, I was ready to leave my family home. Just before I departed, I left a farewell message for my parents and brother. I've been supporting the family, and you've forgotten all the good I've done. I hope you realize who the real burden on our family wealth is. My parents seemed surprised for a moment, but they probably trusted that my brother would figure things out somehow. They all brushed off my words as bitterness. I knew they didn't take me seriously. But for now, I believed it was best to leave things this way. So I left the house. I took a significant amount of equipment from my family home and bought additional items, along with necessary furniture and appliances for my new place. I set up my new place just the way I wanted it, decorating it with my favorite style and creating a cozy atmosphere. It turned out to be a perfect environment for me to work in, and surprisingly, living alone wasn't as intimidating as I thought it would be. In fact, I wished I had made the move sooner. The people in the neighborhood were friendly and life was comfortable. Since leaving my family home and taking care of everything on my own, I've been enjoying myself, trying out new experiences. While I was reveling in my newfound independence, I wondered how things were going back at my family home, especially since they lost my financial support. Then, out of the blue, my mother called. "Hey, Christina, did you do something to our machines?" she asked. "What do you mean?" I replied. "There's something wrong with the computers and electronics," she said. "I have no idea about that," I said, puzzled. "I used to help out for free because we're family, but since you treated me poorly and kicked me out, even though you're my parents, you'll have to pay the regular price," I explained. "What? That's pretty greedy. We're your parents. Can't you give us a discount?" They responded. "Well, I prefer giving discounts to my friends. Unlike you, they treat me well," I countered. "Fine, you're so cheap," they grumbled. Internally, I sighed with relief that another trap hadn't been triggered and dealt with the situation calmly. But my mother didn't seem to appreciate my response. She abruptly hung up, behaving like a sulking child, and even sent a spiteful email implying that mean people lose friends. It made me question who was acting like the mature one. Frankly, it seemed self-centered, if not downright selfish. As for what I did to the family computer, I simply restored all the adjustments I had previously made for free back to their original settings. To someone unfamiliar, it might seem like the computer malfunctioned on its own. When I suggested they contact the company for repairs as an individual, they got upset. But I expected as much, so I let it go. 6 months after leaving home and settling into my new life, my father called me. "I hate to ask, but can you lend me some money?" he said. "What do you mean? Lend you money?" I responded. "Your brother and his wife have been spending recklessly. They think we're rich, and they keep complaining, asking for money to buy this or go there," he explained. "I have no idea about any of this. Why do you always come to me with everything? I've heard of daughters who live alone sending money home, but parents asking their children for money? Shouldn't it be the other way around, out of generosity?" I questioned. "It's not that simple," he replied. "Well, even $500 would help," he added. "I'm not giving you anything. I won't lend you money either. I have no intention of financially supporting you anymore," I firmly stated. "Of course, I'll work on your machines if you pay for my services," I replied calmly. "You've really become stingy," they retorted. "I guess Mom was right about you." They went on complaining about my unemployed years, but I didn't let it bother me. I just ended the call. My father didn't send any emails, but he started calling me multiple times a day, which I found annoying. What troublesome parents I have, I thought to myself. A few days later, my brother, sounding desperate, called me. When I asked why they kept contacting me, he asked, "Do you know why our family was wealthy?" It seemed like he suspected their financial situation had worsened since I moved out, but it was too late. My current home was my sanctuary. My work and life were all centered around this house, and I had no intention of leaving it again. Could it be that our family's wealth came from the $2,500 I was contributing each month? I pondered. I didn't have to give that much, but I felt grateful for my upbringing, so I willingly contributed more. But now, why would I continue supporting a home that kicked me out? It didn't make sense, right? So that's when Mom and Dad's finances took a hit. My brother realized. I'm sorry, but even if you asked me to come back, I have no intention of doing so, I replied firmly. I understand now that what happened was wrong. I'm sorry, but it's too late for apologies. I have no plans to have any involvement with you in the future. Please don't call me anymore. Hey, wait, my brother protested, but I ended the call. When I left home, I made a vow never to be drawn back into their drama. Forgiving them wasn't something I could do easily. I decided to cancel my cell phone contract to avoid the constant calls. 5 years have passed since then, and I've moved on. I got married and started a new chapter in my life. My partner is in the same line of work as me, so he understands my lifestyle and helps out with household chores. Although I thought about reaching out to my parents since they're technically family, I felt it was too late. I hadn't made any attempts to reconnect. However, my husband expressed an interest in meeting my parents and learning about their current situation. To gain insight, I hired a detective to investigate. What we discovered was shocking. My parents, desperate to maintain their lifestyle and keep my brother and his wife tied to the family home, had accrued a mountain of debt from various lenders. With no hope of repayment, the debt continued to grow with accumulating interest, leaving them in a dire situation. The debt from my parents alone exceeded $100,000, and their house had been used as collateral. Now, where our family home once stood, there's only an empty lot. Although I felt a twinge of sadness due to my sentimental attachment to our family home, I couldn't help but think that my parents were facing the consequences of their actions. I decided to look into my brother's current situation. It appeared that my brother had suggested a divorce due to his wife's extravagant spending habits, but she vehemently opposed the idea. They were now embroiled in a drawn-out divorce lawsuit, which was draining both their time and finances. His wife had hired a lawyer and was resisting the divorce, refusing to let go of my brother, leaving them at an impasse. Despite rumors, my brother and his wife hadn't yet had children. To confirm, I sent the detective to the hospital where they were being treated. It turned out my brother was indeed infertile, nearly incapable of producing sperm, making natural conception highly unlikely. My parents, who had pinned their hopes on having grandchildren from my brother and his wife, were disappointed and ended their cohabitation. The family home had to be sold to settle the debt, marking the sad state of my family. This distressing reality became apparent after a cursory investigation. It was evident that engaging with them in this condition wouldn't be beneficial for me or my husband. Now, I have a loving husband, 4 children, and a dog. We've purchased a spacious home and are living the life my family once dreamed of. If they were aware of our situation, they might try to exploit it, which I couldn't bear. As soon as I learned about this, I went to the local office and arranged for my personal information to be accessible only through formal disclosure requests. I made a conscious effort to keep my distance from them and asked my husband not to engage with them regarding our marriage. Although he seemed disappointed at first, after explaining the situation, he understood and hasn't brought it up since. I hope that once things settle down at my family home and a time for reconciliation arrives, I can rebuild a relationship with my parents and brother. Hi everyone, my name is Patricia William. I never thought I'd be sharing this, but maybe my story will help someone recognize the signs I missed. It all started 3 years ago. I was 28 and running my growing interior design firm when I first met Thomas. We need something modern yet timeless for our new corporate headquarters, he said during our initial meeting. His confident smile and trust in my vision for the space were magnetic. Thomas's compliments became a regular thing. Your eye for detail is incredible, he'd say, often lingering after project meetings. One coffee date turned into dinner, and before I knew it, we were inseparable. His mother, Catherine, was warm and welcoming from the start. "Sweetheart, you bring out the best in my Thomas," she said while helping me pick wedding flowers. I haven't seen him this happy in years. Our wedding was a dream, and the first months of marriage felt perfect. Thomas showered me with thoughtful gifts and surprise weekend getaways. When I found out I was pregnant just 6 months after the wedding, his excitement seemed genuine. Catherine was over the moon. "We need the most magical nursery ever," she exclaimed, thumbing through design catalogs with me. But then, little things started to change. Thomas's work meetings stretched later and later. Odd charges appeared on our credit card statements. The market's been crazy, he explained casually. Just some client entertainment expenses. My best friend, Sarah, noticed first. Patricia, isn't it strange how he's never home for dinner anymore? And what about those late-night texts? I defended him, brushing it off. He's working hard for us. Even Catherine seemed uneasy. She'd give me concerned looks when Thomas showed up late to family dinners, his eyes glassy, his movements unsteady. But she never said anything directly. Victoria, his business partner, made a passing comment at a corporate event. Thomas has been different in meetings. Is everything okay at home? I ignored it, focusing instead on my pregnancy and designing the nursery. The pale blue walls and hand-painted clouds were coming together beautifully, just like I thought our life was. Until the night I found the receipt. I was searching for a missing invoice in Thomas's home office when I stumbled across a receipt from a jewelry store. The items weren't for me. That same night, he claimed he was stuck in a budget meeting. The shop project's behind schedule, he slurred over the phone. Don't wait up. Looking back, all the signs were there. The missing money, the late nights, the mood swings, the secretive phone calls. But love can blind you to the truth you don't want to face. My truth unraveled in the most heartbreaking way in a delivery room. At 2 a.m., contractions hit like a freight train. Sarah rushed me to the hospital, frantically trying to reach Thomas. His phone went straight to voicemail, 6 times. Catherine arrived minutes later, her face tight with worry. He's not answering my calls either, she whispered, squeezing my hand as another contraction racked my body. 3 hours later, Thomas finally stumbled into the delivery room. The sharp stench of alcohol announced his arrival before he even spoke. Why's everyone being so dramatic? It's just a baby, he slurred, barely able to stand. The nurses exchanged uneasy glances. Dr. Chen stepped in, firm but composed. Mr. William, if you can't compose yourself. A scream tore from my throat as another contraction hit. What happened next plays in slow motion in my mind. Thomas lurched forward, his face twisted with rage. Shut up. You're embarrassing me. His hand struck my face before anyone could stop him. The room erupted. Security guards rushed in. Catherine's scream mixed with the shouts of the medical staff. Get him out. Now. Dr. Chen commanded, her voice like steel. That's my son. Catherine cried, grabbing his face. Thomas, you're high. You just hit your wife in labor. Leave, now. Thomas was dragged out, kicking and shouting. The next 2 hours were a haze of pain, tears, and sheer determination. At 7:43 a.m., Alexander James William entered the world, perfect despite the chaos that had preceded his arrival. As I recovered in the hospital, Catherine went to our house to gather some essentials. When she returned, her face was pale, and she clutched a small bag tightly. I found these in his office, she whispered, showing me photos on her phone. Hidden compartments revealed baggies of white powder, pills, and drug paraphernalia. There's more, so much more. The truth hit me harder than Thomas's slap ever had. The missing money, the erratic behavior, the late nights, it all made terrible sense. 3 days later, Catherine and I confronted him. She insisted on being there, and thank God she was. You went through my private things. Thomas's eyes were wild, unfocused. You had no right. You're an addict, Thomas. Catherine's voice cracked with pain. You need help. His face twisted with rage as he lunged forward, knocking his desk chair to the floor. You're both crazy. This is my house, my life. You hit your wife while she was giving birth to your son. Catherine snapped, stepping between us as he advanced. Get out. Both of you. With one violent sweep of his arm, Thomas sent everything on his desk crashing to the floor. The sound of shattering glass punctuated his fury. I clutched the photos Catherine had taken, proof of his addiction, proof I wasn't imagining things, proof that my seemingly perfect life had been built on lies. The security cameras caught everything. His aggression, his obvious intoxication, his threats. Catherine insisted we file a report that night. I love my son, she said later, cradling baby Alex as I packed a bag of essentials. But I won't let him hurt you or this precious boy. We need to plan carefully, Patricia. This is just the beginning. Looking at my newborn son, I felt a shift inside me. Fear hardened into determination. Thomas didn't know it yet, but his empire of lies was about to crumble. I just had to be smart about how I dismantled it. The first 2 months with Alex were a blur of sleepless nights and constant vigilance. Thomas's behavior grew increasingly erratic, but I knew I couldn't act until I had undeniable proof. That proof arrived one rainy afternoon in the form of Victoria Hayes, his business partner. "We need to talk," she whispered, her hands trembling as we met at a small cafe 3 towns over. "Not here. We're not safe here." Victoria pulled out a folder and laid it on the table. "Look at these contracts," she said, her voice shaking. "The signatures don't match. And these vendor payments, they're going to shell companies Thomas created." My stomach churned as she showed me spreadsheet after spreadsheet. Millions of dollars were missing, traced to accounts I didn't recognize. "He's selling company assets behind my back," she said, tears welling up. "Last week, I caught him making a drug deal in the parking garage. When he saw me, he said he'd destroy me if I told anyone." Back home, I started digging. Catherine watched Alex while I combed through Thomas's office at night. The evidence was staggering. "Your client, the Hendersons, their $50,000 deposit never made it to your business account," Catherine said, showing me bank records. Thomas intercepted it. One night, I found his burner phone. The messages made my stomach turn. Exchanges with drug dealers, explicit texts with multiple women, including clients I recognized. "Just closed another deal with Mrs. Peterson," one message read. "The stupid expletive thinks she's getting a penthouse renovation. Her husband's money will keep us in powder for months." Victoria called me at midnight, sobbing. "The company is weeks away from bankruptcy. Thomas just emptied our emergency reserves." I installed hidden cameras in his office. The footage was damning. Thomas snorting lines off client contracts, making threats over the phone, and counting stacks of cash. "You're nothing without me," he screamed one night, high out of his mind. "I made you successful. I own you." Catherine helped me document everything: the bruises, the threatening texts, the bounced checks to Alex's pediatrician. "We need a bulletproof plan," she said, helping me photograph the contents of Thomas's secret safe. "One wrong move, and he'll destroy everything you've built." The final straw came when I discovered Alex's college fund was empty. Every penny was gone. "I had some business opportunities," Thomas smirked when I confronted him. "The kid's barely 2 months old. Plenty of time to rebuild it." Catherine helped me set up secret bank accounts while Victoria rallied board members who already suspected something was wrong. "Tomorrow morning, everything changes," Victoria promised. "The board meeting will expose it all. Be ready." That night, while packing Alex's essentials into a go bag, I found a receipt for a storage unit. Inside was the mother lode, detailed records of every illegal transaction, every stolen dollar, every betrayal. "It's his insurance policy," Catherine realized. "Proof to blackmail everyone if he gets caught." Little did Thomas know, his insurance policy would be his downfall. By tomorrow, his empire of lies would collapse. But first, I had to get Alex and myself to safety. "I've got a safe house ready," Catherine whispered, cradling her grandson tightly. "Let him walk into that board meeting thinking he's still in control. By the time he realizes what's happening, it'll be too late." At dawn, Catherine drove Alex and me to the safe house. My phone buzzed with a message from Victoria. "Board meeting in 1 hour. Everything's ready." From our secure location, I watched the live stream. Thomas swaggered into the boardroom, his trademark arrogance plastered across his face. But his smirk froze the moment Victoria stood up, a remote control in her hand. "Board members," she began, her voice steady and clear. "What you're about to see will shock you." Slide after slide exposed Thomas's crimes: embezzlement, fraudulent contracts, offshore accounts, and drug transactions. The room was silent except for the sharp intake of breath from the board members. Thomas shot to his feet and lunged for the door, but security guards were waiting. His face twisted with fury as DEA agents stepped into view. "You can't prove anything," he shouted, desperation cracking his voice. Victoria remained calm. "Your own records prove everything," she said, clicking to the next slide. A photo of the contents from his storage unit. "Your so-called insurance policy has become your prison sentence." Catherine's testimony was the final blow. "My son is a danger to his wife and child," she declared in court, her voice unwavering. "I have documented his drug abuse, his violence, and his threats. He needs to be held accountable." Thomas cycled through rehab centers like vacation homes, checking in, checking out, and relapsing every time. Each attempt at recovery was more hollow than the last. Meanwhile, my life was transforming. My design firm, Phoenix Interiors, rose from the ashes of my shattered marriage. High-profile clients who admired my strength trusted me with their projects. Strong women support strong women became our unofficial motto, and it resonated deeply. 3 years flew by. My studio was thriving, and Alex had grown into a joyful preschooler who loved helping me paint with his toy brushes. "Just like Mommy," he'd exclaim, giggling as Catherine snapped pictures. Her gallery of grandson photos dominated the living room, each one more cherished than the last. On Alex's 3rd birthday, a letter arrived. It was from Thomas's lawyer, pleading for a reconciliation. "I've changed," the letter claimed. "I deserve another chance." I didn't even finish reading it. Instead, I fed it into the bonfire at Alex's party, watching the words crumble into ash. Inside, Alex blew out his candles, surrounded by love and laughter, genuine happiness. In the background, the TV played breaking news. Former CEO Thomas Williams sentenced for fraud, embezzlement, and drug trafficking. "Make a wish, sweetheart," Catherine said, holding Alex up to his cake. Victoria was ready with her camera, capturing the moment. Looking around at my real family, Catherine, who had chosen truth over loyalty to her son. Victoria, who risked everything to expose corruption. And Alex, my sweet boy who would grow up knowing only honesty and strength. I realized some wishes had already come true. "Mommy, can we paint my room blue tomorrow?" Alex asked, frosting smudge across his cheek. I smiled, meeting Catherine's proud gaze. "Of course, baby, we can make it any color you want." Because we were free. Free to create a life filled with joy, integrity, and hope. Thomas's prison sentence was justice, but our happiness, that was the sweetest revenge of all. What would you have done if you discovered your spouse's addiction and betrayal at one of the most vulnerable moments of your life, during childbirth? Would you give them another chance, or would you choose to protect yourself and your child? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Hi, everyone. My name is Tracy, and I need to share something deeply personal about my family. How I learned that sometimes the people closest to us can be the most toxic. I'm a 33-year-old interior designer living in Boston. My life seemed perfect not long ago. A thriving career, a beautiful 6-year-old daughter named Emma who lights up my world, and a husband, James Reynolds, who I thought was everything I'd ever wanted. We met 5 years ago at a charity gala. He was charming, successful in real estate development, and seemed like the perfect match. Within a year, we were married, living in a stunning home in Brookline, and I felt like I'd hit the jackpot. Even his mother, Patricia, welcomed me with open arms. "You've brought such joy to our family, dear," she said warmly during our first meeting. If only I'd known that her sugary words were masking something much darker. The first red flag came at Emma's 5th birthday party. I planned a magical princess-themed celebration, complete with decorations, games, and everything a little girl could dream of. Patricia strolled in, her eyes scanning the room with barely hidden disapproval. "Oh, wouldn't it have been nicer with a more sophisticated theme?" she mused. "Children need proper guidance. When James was young, I always ensured his parties were educational." Later, I met Sarah Chen, my sister-in-law, who pulled me aside. "Don't let her get to you," she whispered. "She did the same thing at my daughter's party last month." "Does she always try to control everything?" I asked, half joking. Sarah gave me a knowing look. "You have no idea. Just wait until she starts comparing you to James' ex." Sunday dinners quickly became a battlefield of subtle digs and unwelcome advice. Patricia would serve her famous roast while slipping in her critiques. "Emma seems a bit unfocused at the table, dear," she'd say with a tight smile. "Perhaps you should consider stricter discipline." In my day, James's business partner, Cooper, often looked visibly uncomfortable around Patricia, muttering cryptic remarks like, "Something's not right with that woman." To escape the stress, Emma and I created our own traditions. Saturday became our day. Pancake breakfasts, park visits, and craft projects. But the tension never truly stayed away. "Mommy, can we skip Grandma's dinner tomorrow?" Emma would ask. I couldn't blame her. Patricia's remarks became sharper with each visit. "Don't you want to be a good student like your cousin?" she'd say to Emma. Then, turning to me, "Tracy, perhaps you should reconsider your parenting approach." James would sit there silently, scrolling on his phone. Later, he'd shrug it off. "She means well." But I noticed how he changed when he was around her, more critical, more distant. Sarah confided in me again over coffee last week. She tried to convince my husband I was overspending on the kids. She even brought him bank statements. Can you believe it? I started documenting everything. Her comments, her interference, her subtle undermining because something darker was surfacing. Patricia's perfectly polished exterior was cracking, and I was beginning to see the manipulative force beneath. The tipping point came at last month's Easter dinner. Patricia accidentally spilled red wine all over my new design portfolio, the one I needed for an important client meeting the next day. "Oh, you're still doing that little decorating thing," she said dismissively. "I thought you focused more on family by now." She didn't even attempt to help clean up. James barely looked up from his phone. "Mom didn't mean it, Tracy. You're being too sensitive again." But it wasn't just me. At Sarah's son's birthday party, I overheard Patricia gossiping to other mothers. "Poor James. I worry about Tracy's stability. She's been so erratic lately. Did you know she takes medication for her nerves? I've never taken anxiety medication in my life." Then came the dinner that changed everything. Emma, excited about her school art project, was chatting away at the table. "Sweetheart, please sit still," I said gently. "She's disrupting dinner." Patricia snapped. Turning to James, she barked, "Your daughter needs discipline." Before I could respond, Patricia grabbed Emma's arm and marched her downstairs. The sound of the basement door locking sent chills down my spine. "She needs to learn," Patricia said coldly, pocketing the key. "This is how we handled James when he misbehaved," Patricia said with a chilling smile, her words hanging heavy in the air. Below us, Emma's cries echoed from the basement. "Where's my mommy?" she sobbed. I bolted from my chair. "Give me the key, now." "You're being hysterical, Tracy," James said, his tone clipped, as if I were the one out of line. Patricia waved a hand dismissively. "Emma was just playing down there," she claimed later, after I'd already called the police. "Stop making a scene." That night, while James was in the shower, his phone lit up with messages from Patricia. One caught my eye. "We need to handle the situation before she ruins everything. Remember what happened with Rachel? We can't let that happen again. I've already spoken to Dr. Harrison about getting her evaluated." My hands shook as I read those words. Who was Dr. Harrison? What had happened with Rachel? The next day, James pulled me aside at work. His expression was grave. "Tracy, listen carefully. Something's not right with the company finances. Patricia's name is on documents she shouldn't be involved with. Be careful." "What do you mean?" He hesitated. "Last time someone questioned her involvement, they were forced to resign under serious allegations." "What kind of allegations?" "The kind that ruin careers and families. Watch your back. Patricia has friends in high places." I didn't have long to process his warning. That night, I overheard James on the phone. "Yes, Mother. I understand. Tracy won't be a problem much longer. Emma still has nightmares about the basement. She wakes up crying, clutching me, whispering, 'Don't let Grandma take me.' This isn't just about control anymore. Something bigger, something darker, is unfolding, and I need to uncover it before it's too late." The first step was digging deeper. After the basement incident, Sarah invited me to a quiet cafe, far from prying eyes. "Rachel," she said, lowering her voice. "James' ex-fiancée. She didn't actually have an affair. Patricia set the whole thing up, hired a guy to fake photos. I found out through my husband's old emails." My stomach turned. "How do you know all this?" "Because she tried the same thing with me. Said if I didn't give up my job, some compromising photos might just happen to find their way to my husband." I decided to play Patricia's game. I accepted her insincere apology about the basement and pretended to make peace. Meanwhile, I hired a private investigator. The results were shocking. "Your mother-in-law visits your office building regularly when you're not there," the investigator reported. "She's been meeting with your biggest clients. Within a week, 3 clients canceled their contracts. We heard you're having personal problems," they said awkwardly. The walls were closing in, but James surprised me by calling a secret meeting at a diner outside of town. His hands trembled as he slid a USB drive across the table. "Tracy, it's all here," he whispered. "Patricia's been using my company to launder money. Those luxury condos downtown, they're fake projects. The money's coming from somewhere else." "And you?" I asked, dreading the answer. "I sign whatever she puts in front of me," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "Always have. But it's not just me. She's doing this to everyone in the family." I reached out to James's sister, Amanda, at her yoga studio. Her eyes filled with tears. "She controls everything," Amanda said. "My business loan? It's actually my inheritance, but she made me sign papers saying I owe her. She's done the same to David and Lisa." As I dug through old records, I discovered a history of domestic violence complaints against Patricia, all mysteriously dropped. "Keep playing nice," Sarah advised. "Document everything." So I did. I started wearing a discreet recorder to every family gathering. Last Sunday, I hit gold. "Really, James," Patricia said, not knowing I was just around the corner. "Once we get rid of her like we did Rachel, everything will go back to normal. The company can't afford questions right now. But Emma, she'll forget about her mother eventually, just like you forgot about your father after I sent him away." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. James's father hadn't abandoned them, as Patricia always claimed. What had she done to him? The more I uncovered, the more sinister her schemes became. Regulators were starting to notice her sloppy mistakes. James showed me documents Patricia had tried to force him to sign, backdated contracts, and falsified statements. In his office, I found evidence she'd been stealing from her other children's trusts for years. She'd even forged James's signature to gain power of attorney over Emma's college fund. "We're all trapped," Amanda confided. "She has dirt on everyone." I stared at my phone, another missed call from Patricia lighting up the screen. It was time to spring the trap. "Of course, I'll come to dinner Sunday, Mother," I said, my voice as sweet as honey. "I think it's time we all had a nice, long family chat." But dinner wasn't where I planned to end this. Patricia's annual charity gala, the crown jewel of her social calendar, would be the perfect stage. Everyone who mattered in Boston society would be there. Her country club friends, business associates, and the very people she had spent years manipulating. "So glad you could make it, dear," Patricia said, her signature pearls gleaming under the chandeliers. Her smile was all too confident. "James tells me you've been much more cooperative lately." Little did she know, the entire family was ready to take her down. James, Sarah, Amanda, David, and even Rachel, James' ex-fiancé, were in position. It was showtime. Patricia took the stage, her voice smooth and commanding as she launched into a speech about family values and integrity. That was Amanda's cue. Speaking of family, Amanda interrupted, standing up from her seat. "Let's talk about how you stole our inheritances." She held up a stack of documents. "I have the real ones right here." Patricia's smile froze. "Amanda, dear, you're confused." "No, Mother," David interjected, rising to his feet. "We've seen the proof. Every so-called loan you gave us was stolen from our trust funds." Sarah stepped forward next, holding up her phone. "Shall I play the recording of you threatening to frame me for an affair? Or maybe the one where you admit to hiring someone to stalk Rachel?" Patricia lunged for Sarah's phone, but James was already plugging his laptop into the projector. "Your attention, please," he announced to the stunned crowd. "These documents show years of fraud at Reynolds Development. My mother has been using the company to launder money, funneling millions into her own accounts." Gasps rippled through the room as Rachel emerged from the crowd. "Is this also ridiculous, Patricia?" she said, her voice steely. "Like how you faked photos of me cheating? Or how about we discuss what really happened to James's father?" Pandemonium broke out. Patricia's carefully curated world crumbled before her eyes. Her country club friends backed away in disgust as police officers entered the room, escorted by SEC agents James had already tipped off. "You ungrateful little..." Patricia hissed at me, venom dripping from every word. "I'll destroy you like you destroyed your husband." Smiling coldly, I reached into my bag and pressed play on my recorder. Her voice echoed through the room. "Once we get rid of her, everything will go back to normal. Emma will forget about her mother, just like James forgot about his father after I sent him away." The truth about James's father finally came to light, and Patricia's empire crumbled under the weight of her crimes. 1 year later, life looks completely different now. My design firm is thriving, expanding into New York, and Emma's nightmares have all but vanished with the help of therapy. She loves her new school, her smile bright and unafraid. Patricia, on the other hand, is facing multiple lawsuits from enraged investors. Her assets are frozen, her once gilded reputation is ruined, and her social circle has abandoned her. Last I heard, she's living in a tiny apartment, utterly alone. James lost everything in our divorce. The SEC investigation revealed he had knowingly participated in Patricia's schemes, signing off on fraudulent deals for years. After serving a brief sentence, he moved to Ohio, working at his cousin's car dealership. Yesterday, I received a tear-streaked letter from Patricia. "I'm sorry for everything. Can we talk?" I didn't read past the first line. I shredded it and tossed it into the trash. "Mommy, can we get ice cream?" Emma asked this morning, her eyes sparkling. "Of course, baby," I said, looking around our peaceful new home. Surrounded by true friends like Sarah and Amanda, I felt a deep sense of peace. We'd done it. We were free. The best revenge wasn't just exposing Patricia's lies or seeing her empire fall. It was this: happiness, success, and a life completely free from toxic people. Patricia, she's just a cautionary tale now, one I tell other women when we talk about trusting our instincts. Sometimes the only way to win is to walk away and let karma do the rest. Would you have exposed Patricia immediately, or would you have played the long game like I did to bring her entire empire crashing down? Let me know in the comments. Hi everyone, I'm Marie, a speech therapist working with children with ADHD. My life seemed perfect, but I need to tell you how it all started falling apart. Have you seen next week's client list? It's packed, my assistant Sarah said, handing me a stack of files. That's great news. More kids we can help. I smiled, adjusting the framed photo of John and me on my desk. My engagement ring caught the light, making my smile widen. By the way, your fiancé called, something about wedding venue options. Oh right, thanks for reminding me. I checked my phone and saw 3 missed calls from John. Balancing my career and wedding planning wasn't easy, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Later that evening, Mom Henderson called as I reviewed patient files. "Sweetheart, how are you holding up with all the wedding planning?" "I'm good, Mom. Just busy as usual. How's Dad?" "He's concerned, honey. Your brother Jake came by again today." My stomach tightened. Jake, my biological brother, had reappeared in my life 3 months ago after years of silence. What did he want? He was asking strange questions about your college fund, our savings. That's odd. I'll talk to him. The next morning, Jake was waiting outside my office. "Surprise, sis. Thought I'd bring you coffee." "Jake, this is unexpected," I said, accepting the cup cautiously. Since reconnecting, he'd been overly interested in my life, constantly showing up unannounced. Can't a brother visit his successful sister? Oh, by the way, I met John at the gym yesterday. Cool guy. You met John? You didn't mention that. Random coincidence. We got talking about the wedding. Man, it must be expensive, huh? Those Henderson folks really set you up nice. Before I could respond, Sarah appeared. "Marie, your 10 o'clock is here." "Jake, we'll talk later," I said, but his words lingered. That evening, over dinner with my adoptive parents, Dad Henderson seemed troubled. "Princess, we need to talk about Jake." "What's wrong?" "He's been asking uncomfortable questions about our assets. Your inheritance." Mom touched my hand. "Honey, we love you. You know that, right? When we adopted you." "Mom, Dad, you're my real parents. Jake might be blood, but you're my family." "We're just worried," Dad said. His questions seemed calculated. I squeezed their hands. "I'll handle Jake. You've given me everything: love, support, education. I won't let anyone mess with that." But that night, lying awake, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. Jake's sudden reappearance, his probing questions, his coincidental meeting with John. Something wasn't right, and I had to figure it out before my perfect life unraveled. The next morning, John was acting strange at breakfast. He barely touched his coffee, avoiding eye contact. "Had fun at the bachelor party last night?" I asked lightly. His jaw tightened. "Yeah." Jake was there. My coffee cup froze midway to my lips. "Jake? I didn't know he was invited." "There's a lot I apparently didn't know, Marie." His voice was cold. Like how your birth parents sold you to the Hendersons. The cup slipped from my hand, chattering. What? Jake told us everything. How they were desperate for money. How the Hendersons paid them off. Were you ever going to tell me? John, that's not true. I was adopted legally because my birth parents couldn't. I need time to think. He grabbed his keys and left. At work, my friend Sandra called. Marie, we need to talk. People are saying things. What things? Jake's been spreading rumors about you, that you're hiding dark secrets, that you're ashamed of your past. My hands shook as I hung up. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom Henderson. Honey, Jake came by again. He seemed desperate. Mentioned something about owing money to dangerous people. Fury building, I drove to Jake's apartment. He opened the door, looking nervous. Hey sis, what brings you? Cut the act. Why are you spreading lies about me? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Look, I need help. I'm in deep with some gambling debts minus 30 grand deep. So you decided to destroy my life. Jake sneered, his voice dripping with venom. The Hendersons are loaded. They bought you, didn't they? What's a little more money to protect their precious adopted daughter's reputation? They didn't buy me, and I won't let you extort them. I shot back, my voice trembling with anger. Then I'll keep telling everyone the truth about our parents selling you. Wonder what the parents of your ADHD kids would think about their therapist's sketchy background. Get out of my life, Jake. Whatever you think you're owed, you're not getting it. Wrong move, sis. Very wrong move. I stormed out, tears blurring my vision. My phone buzzed relentlessly, messages from friends asking about the rumors. John still wasn't answering my calls. Jake's threats hung over me like a storm cloud. At home, I pulled out an old photo album. There I was, 3 years old, smiling with the Hendersons on adoption day. The photos told the truth. There was no secret payment, no selling of children. Just love and legal paperwork. My phone rang. It was John. We need to talk, he said. Yes, we do, because everything you think you know is a lie, and I can prove it. I'll come over tomorrow, he said. But Marie, I don't know if I can trust you anymore. I hung up, my resolve hardening. Jake wanted to play dirty. Fine. It was time to show him what happened when he messed with the wrong sister. The next day, John sat across from me at my kitchen table, the adoption papers spread out between us. So everything Jake said was a lie? He asked, examining the documents. Look at the dates, the signatures. Everything's legal. Before he could respond, my phone rang. The caller ID stopped me cold. Birth mother. My hands shook as I answered. Hello. Is it true? She demanded. Do you owe us money for all those years of suffering? What? What are you talking about? Jake said you're rich now, that you need to compensate us for giving you up. My blood ran cold. He's lying to you too, I said, my voice breaking. After the call, I drove to my parents' house. Mom Henderson opened the door, her face etched with worry. Marie, honey, we need to tell you something, she said. Jake tried to blackmail us, Dad added, holding a folder of papers. He said if we didn't pay, he'd report your clinic for client mistreatment. My knees buckled. He what? We hired a private investigator, Dad continued. Jake's done this before. I scanned the documents with trembling hands. 3 fraud cases in 2 states, restraining orders, extortion attempts against other families. He's trying to destroy everything I've built, I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. There's more, Dad said. He's been feeding lies to your birth parents too, telling them they're owed compensation. My phone buzzed. A text from Jake. Final warning, sis. Pay up, or tomorrow I start calling your client parents about their kids being mistreated. I stood, my determination solidifying. I won't let him hurt my kids, I said, my voice steady. That evening, I made a series of calls. First to Sandra, my friend at the courthouse. I need every legal document you can find on Jake Mitchell. Then to Sarah. Pull all the security footage from when Jake visited the clinic. Finally to my old college roommate, now a detective. Can you run a background check? Piece by piece, the evidence came together. Jake's pattern was clear. Find vulnerable families, exploit their emotions, and extract money. But he picked the wrong target this time. I set up cameras in my office, knowing he'd show up again. Sure enough, the next day, he stormed in. Last chance, Marie. 30 grand, or I start making calls. I recorded everything, Jake. Every threat, every lie. I've got proof of your frauds, too. His face went pale. You're bluffing. I played the recording of his blackmail attempt against the Hendersons. You really think I'd let you hurt my family? My patients? I said, standing firm. You picked the wrong sister to mess with. You think you're so perfect, don't you? The successful one. The chosen one. No, Jake, I'm just someone who chooses to build rather than destroy. I watched as the fight drained out of him. Now get out. Later, I met with both sets of parents, adoptive and biological, and showed them everything. My birth mother wept. He played us all. Use our guilt against us, she said. Mom Henderson hugged her tightly. We all love Marie. That's what matters. That night, John called. I was an idiot for believing him. Yes, you were, I said. Can we talk? Really talk? I hesitated, thinking of trust and betrayal. We can talk, but things won't be the same. The next morning, a text from Jake's girlfriend arrived. You should know he owes dangerous people money. Loan sharks. They're not patient. Perfect. Jake's own choices were catching up with him. I forwarded the evidence to my detective friend. That night, I sat in my office, flipping through childhood photos. There was little Jake before the bitterness consumed him. My phone buzzed again, a threatening text from Jake. But I wasn't scared anymore. The truth was my weapon, and I had an arsenal. Your house of cards is about to fall, I whispered to the screen. The morning news hit like a bombshell. Local man arrested in connection with multiple fraud cases. Jake's mugshot stared back at me. Did you see the news? Sarah burst into my office, beaming. Those loan sharks Jake owed money to. Turns out they were running an illegal gambling ring. When they got caught, Jake went down with them. I smile, remembering the anonymous tip I sent to my detective friend about Jake's gambling connections. Sometimes justice comes from unexpected places. My phone buzzes, a message from one of Jake's previous victims. Thank you for helping us come forward. Your evidence gave us courage. 10 other families have filed charges against him. Each story mirrors mine. Exploitation, emotional manipulation, attempts at extortion. But I was the one who finally stopped him. Marie, I look up to see John standing in my office doorway. Can we talk? We sit in the park where he proposed. He speaks first. I've been an idiot. Yes, you have, I say, my tone calm but firm. I should have trusted you. I should have asked you first instead of believing Jake. I twist my engagement ring thoughtfully. Trust isn't just about love, John. It's about respect. You didn't respect me enough to hear my side. I know, he says, his voice heavy with regret. I'll spend every day making it up to you. If we get married, I emphasize the if, things will be different. I need boundaries, John. Clear ones. Later that week, my birth parents visit my clinic. They look remorseful. We're so sorry, Marie, my birth mother says. We let Jake manipulate our guilt. I understand, I reply, my tone measured. But I need space. I have a family, the Hendersons. You can be part of my life, but on my terms. The wedding is smaller than originally planned. I walk down the aisle with Dad Henderson, Mom beaming from the front row. My birth parents sit quietly in the back, respecting my wishes. Jake watches the ceremony from a jail cell, awaiting trial for multiple fraud charges. His gambling debts caught up with him, and those loan sharks weren't thrilled about him cooperating with the police to save himself. You look beautiful, John whispers during our first dance. Thank you, I say, keeping a slight distance even in his arms. Trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. My practice continues to thrive. The kids I work with make progress every day. Their trust a precious gift I'll never take for granted. Unlike Jake, I choose to build, not destroy. Mom Henderson asks about Jake sometimes. Have you heard from him? He's where he needs to be, Mom, I reply. Some people don't change. The last time I saw Jake was at his sentencing. 5 years for fraud, plus civil suits from his victims. He tried to catch my eye, but I looked away. Sometimes the best revenge is living well while karma does its work. On my new office wall hang 2 framed documents, my marriage certificate and my therapy license. Proof that Marie Henderson, not Mitchell, built something real, something honest. Ready for your 3 o'clock? Sarah asks, poking her head in. Always, I reply, smiling as I adjust the nameplate on my desk. It reads, Mary Henderson, speech therapist. The past is behind me now. Jake's choices led to his downfall, while I rose above his schemes. Family isn't about blood, it's about choices. I chose integrity. I chose the Hendersons. I chose my own path. And John, he's learning that love without trust is like therapy without honesty. It only works if both sides are willing to do the work. We're getting there slowly. Hi, I'm Anna Laurent. Revenge, it's best served with a side of exposed lies and a sprinkle of justice. As the morning sun warms my food truck, steam rises from my grandmother's signature coq au vin. My hands work instinctively, muscle memory honed from years spent by her side in our cozy French kitchen. Cooking isn't about perfection, Grandmère used to say. It's about love, truth, and tradition. A customer's voice snaps me from my memories. This is incredible. You should have your own restaurant. That's how I met Kevin. It started with him sampling my bourbon bread pudding at a festival booth, followed by coffee, dinner, and eventually a ring. My family's going to adore you, he promised. Mom owned restaurants, and my sister Rachel is an amazing food influencer. I believed him. I thought I was stepping into a family of food lovers, kindred spirits. That illusion shattered the first dinner at the Morgan Mansion. Diana Morgan, Kevin's mother, scrutinized my every move like a hawk eyeing prey. Rachel, her darling daughter, spent the evening posting photos of store-bought pastries she passed off as her own. "Did you really make this yourself?" Diana asked, her eyebrows arched high as she poked at my rustic appetizer. "Mom, stop," Kevin laughed nervously. "Anna's food is amazing." But I saw it in Diana's eyes, the threat detection. A real chef could expose Rachel's polished but fraudulent foodie empire. Later, Marco, an old friend and food critic, warned me. "The Morgans control half the restaurants in this city. Diana's got critics in her pocket. Be careful." Jessica, another food blogger, showed me Rachel's Instagram. "Look at these original recipes. They're stolen from small chefs who can't fight back." Kevin defended them at first. They're just protecting their reputation. But over time, I watched my once supportive fiancé morph into Diana's obedient puppet. The final blow came with the announcement of an upcoming dinner party for the city's top food critics. Rachel will showcase her latest creations, Diana said smugly. "I could help," I offered. Diana's icy glare cut through me. "Darling, this is a professional event. Why don't you just observe?" Kevin said nothing, suddenly engrossed in his phone. That night, Jessica sent me Rachel's latest post, a picture of my grandmother's coq au vin, rebranded as Rachel's innovative fusion recipe. My blood boiled. "The critics will destroy her," I whispered. "No," Jessica said grimly. "Diana owns them. Tomorrow's dinner would change everything." The Morgans thought they knew power, but they had no idea what was cooking. The Morgan Mansion's kitchen buzzed with pre-dinner chaos. I quietly plated my appetizers, prosciutto-wrapped figs drizzled with a honey lavender glaze. Rachel stormed in, her face red. "Mom, she's making her own dishes. This wasn't the plan." Diana appeared, her expression thunderous. "What is this?" she snapped, eyeing my tray. "Just a little something extra," I said innocently. The critics arrived early, gathering with Diana in a corner. I watched thick envelopes discreetly exchange hands. Divine as always, Rachel, one critic gushed over her store-bought pâté. Then my appetizers hit the floor. Whispers turned to murmurs, then genuine praise. Phones emerged to snap photos. "This is exquisite," a younger critic said. "Who made these?" Before Rachel could answer, an older critic spoke up. "This has Laurent finesse. Did you study under Madame Laurent in Paris?" "She was my grandmother," I said quietly. Diana's wine glass shattered against the marble floor. "You attention-seeking little snake," she hissed. "How dare you upstage Rachel?" Kevin appeared at her side. "Mom, maybe." "Choose," Diana snapped. "Your wife's amateur hour or your family's legacy." Kevin wouldn't meet my eyes. Fighting tears, I fled to the garden. My phone buzzed. Rachel's Instagram, featuring my signature figs captioned as another original creation. Through the bathroom window, I overheard Diana and Rachel. "She's ruining everything," Rachel whined. "The food truck needs to go," Diana said coldly. "We have connections at the health department. Remember the Thai place that competed with Rachel's pop-up?" Sophia, the housekeeper, found me sitting among the roses. "You're not the first they've crushed." she said softly. Rachel failed out of culinary school. Diana paid the dean to call it a family emergency. Diana Morgan thrives on silence. Speak up and you disappear. My phone buzzes again. A headline from a local food blog. Rising star chef Rachel Morgan stuns critics with innovative winter menu. I stifle a bitter laugh. The critics praised her overcooked salmon with standing ovations. Diana beamed. Kevin smirked at me, squeezing my shoulder just a little too hard. Family knows best, babe, he whispered. Stay in your lane. Across the room, the young critic who complimented my figs caught my eye and gave a subtle shake of his head. Fear. Diana's iron grip was on full display, her victory lap in motion. Rachel inherited my culinary genius, Diana boasted. Her pointed glare added the unspoken. Some people should stick to food trucks, if they last. The threat hung heavy as I slipped outside. Later, Sophia, the housekeeper, handed me a folder. Why help me? I asked. They destroy my daughter's bakery, she said quietly. Diana blacklisted her into bankruptcy. Inside the folder, evidence of health code bribes, stolen recipes, and deliberate sabotage of competing restaurants. My phone buzzed again. Kevin's text was short and cruel. Change the locks on your food truck storage unit. For the best, babe. Family meeting tomorrow about your future. I thought of Grandmare's words. In cooking, timing is everything. Diana thought she'd won. She thought she protected Rachel's fake empire, but she just handed me the key ingredient for revenge. Proof. The next morning, I played my part perfectly. Apologies. Smiles. Deference. Over coffee, Sophia slid more files into my lap while pretending to clean. Receipts for payoffs to health inspectors. Photos of filthy restaurant kitchens. Emails about competitor sabotage. There's more in the basement storage, she whispered. That night, Marco met me behind my food truck. Got something big, he said. Rachel's taking kickbacks from suppliers. Cheap, contaminated ingredients sold at premium prices. That's why their seafood tastes off and why 3 people got food poisoning last month. Diana buried the reports. Evidence began piling up. A former line cook contacted me through Sophia. Rachel came in after closing to photograph our dishes, then claimed them as her own, he said. Diana made us sign NDAs. Hidden phone recordings captured family meetings. Diana snapped, handle it. When Kevin mentioned health inspectors asking questions about shellfish. Like you handled that Vietnamese place downtown? He asked. Already done, Diana said coldly. Fire accident scheduled for next week. Rachel whined. That new fusion place is stealing my customers. Don't worry, princess. Diana soothed. Their pipes might have an unfortunate leak soon. I stayed in character, the perfect, defeated wife. You're right, Kevin, I said. I should learn from Rachel. He bought it completely. Finally, Mom will be so pleased. More evidence poured in. Financial records revealed payments to nearly every major food critic in town. Former employees shared stories. Rachel couldn't tell basil from oregano, one said. We had to pre-measure everything. Diana threatened my family when I refused to let Rachel claim my signature dish, another added. The young critic who praised my figs reached out. They're blackmailing all of us, he admitted. I'm ready to talk. A USB drive appeared in my locker, surveillance footage of Diana handing envelopes to health inspectors. The Food Network segment films next week, Kevin announced proudly. Rachel's doing your grandmother's coq au vin. I smiled sweetly. She'll do it justice, I'm sure. Marco built the case. 5 destroyed restaurants, 20 bought critics, hundreds of stolen recipes. Diana's hubris grew. See how much better things are when you behave, she said. Rachel posted yet another stolen recipe. My grandmother's tart tatin, calling it her latest creation. The rage simmered, but I stayed cool. Timing is everything. The Food Network cameras rolled as Rachel stumbled through her coq au vin demonstration. Meanwhile, my evidence detonated across every major food publication. Rising star Rachel Morgan exposed, stolen recipes and fake credentials. Morgan family under investigation for health code violations and criminal conspiracy. My phone exploded. First, Rachel, you backstabbing snake. Then Diana. You'll regret this. Finally, Kevin. We can fix this. Please call me. Marco's expose that hit hardest. Surveillance footage of restaurant sabotage, proof of critic payoffs, documents revealing Rachel's culinary school expulsion. The Food Network segment shifted to breaking news coverage as Rachel crumbled on live TV. When asked about the stolen recipes, I didn't hesitate. Those Vietnamese restaurant owners you burned out? I texted Kevin, along with every chef whose recipes Rachel had swiped. They're suing, I added. Health inspectors swarmed the Morgan family restaurants, real ones this time, not Diana's puppets. The violations? They went on longer than Rachel's fake recipe book. Morgan family restaurants shut down amid a health crisis. Social media star Rachel Morgan watched as her follower count plummeted 80%. The bot networks exposed. 5 years flashed by. My food truck, a tribute to Grand Mayor's legacy, became a sensation. Authentic food, real reviews. Diana's empire crumbled, piece by piece, as their restaurants were sold off to cover the mounting lawsuits. Rachel's cookbook deal, canceled. Her influencer career, dead. I couldn't help but laugh when I heard her bitter voice on my voicemail. This is all your fault. Kevin, living in his parents' guest room, his financial career ruined by association, tried one last time. Babe, we can fix this. Family means forgiveness. I deleted his message while sorting through applications for my new restaurant's apprentice program. Young chefs eager to learn the right way. Diana's final attempt came through her lawyer. In light of recent hardships, a reconciliation could benefit all parties. My response was swift. I opened my restaurant in their former flagship location, rebranding it with truth, time, and authenticity. Today, I teach the art of real cooking to passionate students. No shortcuts, no lies. No stolen glory. Just real food. Honest work. One of my youngest apprentices asks, Chef Laurent, is it true the Morgans tried to steal your recipes? I smile, thinking of grandmère. The best recipes can't be stolen. They're passed down with love and earned through hard work. The real food critics rave about my cuisine now. Every review praises how truth, like a perfect sauce, eventually comes to light. Rachel's stuck working at a drive-thru. Diana's blacklisted from every restaurant association. Kevin's living proof that karma, like overcooked fish, is hard to swallow. The Morgans are trying to open a new restaurant, Marco casually mentions during dinner service. Good luck, I say with a laugh. Their only authentic dish is a serving of lies. My restaurant's full every night, not with bought reviews or stolen recipes, but with real food and honest success. They wanted to ban me from the kitchen, but instead, they gave me the ingredients for the perfect revenge. And like Grandmère always said, the secret ingredient is justice, served cold with a side of karma. Have you ever been forced to watch someone steal your passion and talent, while others praise their fake success? What would you do? Speak up immediately and risk everything, or play the long game like Anna did. Tell me about a time when you had to choose between keeping the peace and standing up for your truth. Would you let someone claim your life's work as their own to maintain family harmony? You don't have a room here, so why don't you just sleep in the lobby like a stray dog? The thud of my husband's luggage landing at my feet echoed louder than the words. I stood frozen in the cold spring wind, the sting of rejection settling deep in my chest. Just a week ago, when Mark suggested this family trip, my heart had leaped with hope. Maybe I thought he was finally starting to accept me as part of the family. I poured my soul into preparing for this trip, thinking it was my chance to be acknowledged. But now I see it for what it is, an illusion. A sudden shove from behind jolted me forward, slamming my shoulder into a marble column in the lobby. Oh, Anna, you're just standing there in the way, my sister-in-law, Gemma, sneered, her voice honeyed with mock concern. Maybe you should curl up in the corner, like the stray dog you are. Her smirk was cruel as she relished my discomfort. Behind her, I saw Mark carefully carrying Gemma's luggage, not even sparing me a glance. Move to the far corner of the lobby, he said coldly. Your presence only embarrasses us. With that, he walked away, shoulder to shoulder with his sister, their laughter echoing as they disappeared into the elevator. Isn't this better than being outside in the cold? My mother-in-law Heather chimed in, her voice sharp with derision. Compared to being homeless, the lobby is a luxury. She sauntered past me, her laughter grating and unkind. I stared at the marble tiles beneath my feet, my vision blurred. They had reserved 3 rooms, making it clear that I wasn't welcome. For years, I had endured their cruelty, swallowing every insult and slight. Losing my father had left me yearning for the warmth of family, and I had foolishly believed that if I worked harder, if I became a better wife, they might one day accept me. But now, the ache in my shoulder was nothing compared to the storm raging inside me. Under the chandelier's cold, glittering light, I gripped my phone tightly. Something inside me was breaking, crumbling under the weight of their disdain. I took a deep breath, steadying my trembling hands. "My name is Anna James," I whispered to myself. 35 years old, a full-time housewife. I had married Mark 3 years ago, starry-eyed at the idea of becoming part of a new family. Having grown up with just my mother after my father's passing, I had always cherished the dream of family bonds. Since my 20s, I had been quietly investing in stocks, building up a $5 million portfolio. It was a deeply personal achievement, something I had never felt the need to share, not even with Mark. But everything changed one night in our first year of marriage when he came home, drunk and desperate. Through tears, he confessed to a massive gambling debt, claiming he couldn't repay it on his salary. Moved by his vulnerability, I decided to trust him. I revealed my savings, thinking it might strengthen our bond. The very next day, Mark changed. He bragged to his mother and sister about my financial success as if it were his own accomplishment. The man who had seemed so vulnerable the night before now wore a smug grin, his words hollow with pride. "Anna," he would say each month, "I'm a bit short again. Can you help?" At first, I gave in, convincing myself that marriage was about sharing burdens. But Mark spent the money recklessly, without gratitude or thought. Golf clubs, expensive outings, his indulgences piled up while his resentment simmered beneath the surface. "You're lucky to have a wife as generous as Anna," he boasted to Gemma and Heather, their sly glances betraying their envy and disdain. What they didn't know was that I had quietly been paying Gemma's $1,200 rent for years after Mark begged me to help her. "My mom's struggling," Anna Heath said, his voice laced with guilt. "I feel terrible not being able to do more." It didn't stop there. Heather, too, leaned on me financially. Her comments were veiled in sarcasm, her demands wrapped in the pretense of family unity. "Mark is lucky to have married someone wealthy," she'd say, the words cutting in their simplicity. I endured it all, every insult, every ungrateful demand, because I thought family was worth the sacrifice. My embroidery had been my one solace, a skill passed down from my mother. The cherry blossom piece we had stitched together before her passing hung in my study, a reminder of her love. But even that wasn't safe from Heather's scorn. "Embroidery? Really?" she scoffed once. "Such an old-fashioned hobby, like something a grandma would do." Her words stung, but I knew Heather's resentment wasn't entirely about me. Her bitterness was rooted in her own unhappy marriage, and I had become an easy target for her frustrations. "Anna, you'd never understand," she'd say, her tone dripping with disdain. "Without kids or a job, you don't know what real struggles are." "Yes, Anna's so old-fashioned, isn't she?" Gemma would chime in, her voice laced with mockery. Rich, but somehow so plain. When the two of them were together, they always managed to gang up on me, turning even mundane conversations into opportunities to jab at me. Mark, as usual, brushed it all off with a vague laugh. He had grown up in a single-parent household, and I knew he would never confront his mother. Sometimes he even joined in, laughing as Heather and Gemma mocked me. When we first married, I believed I could nurture a strong bond with his family. I listened to Heather's complaints, helped Gemma financially, and made every effort to strengthen our ties. In the beginning, things seemed promising. Mark was respectful of my success. Gemma was considerate, and Heather treated me like a sister. But over time, everything twisted. Mark's demands grew incessant, Gemma's dependency deepened, and Heather's bitterness sharpened. I held on, convincing myself they would one day understand and accept me. "Thank you, Anna," Gemma would say, smiling sweetly. "I'll make sure to pay this month's rent by tomorrow." But the money never came from her account. Month after month, I deposited $1,200 directly to her landlord to keep her from losing her apartment. "Mom, are you sure you've handled the rent?" I overheard Mark asking Heather once. "Oh, I'm managing just fine," she replied breezily. "I never want my son to worry about me." Her words stung, knowing full well that she relied on me financially while pretending otherwise. I could never bring myself to tell Mark the truth. The weight of their expectations hollowed me out. Mark's obliviousness, His mother's manipulation and his sister's malice began to wear me down. Embroidery became my escape. With every stitch, I felt a connection to my late mother, as though her spirit sat beside me, guiding my hands. It was a fleeting but precious comfort. But even that refuge wasn't safe from intrusion. "Anna, why don't we all have tea together? Let's spend time as a family," Gemma would suggest. If I declined, her glare was sharp enough to cut. "How dare you act this way? Aren't we family?" Heather would pile on. "Isn't family important to you, Anna?" Even Mark didn't stand by me. "Why can't you just get along with my mom and sister?" he'd say with exasperation. Their scorn seeped into every corner of my life. What had once been a source of joy, my embroidery, now felt like an indulgence I wasn't allowed to have. Each prick of the needle became a reminder of guilt and judgment. My home, which should have been my sanctuary, was suffocating. One evening, as I sat in silence, Mark approached me. "Anna, I want to get new golf clubs," he said, his tone casual but insistent. When I hesitated, his expression darkened. "Oh, I get it. Someone from a poor background like me doesn't deserve anything nice, right?" And then there was Gemma. Her calls were no longer surprising. "I could really use help with rent again this month," she'd say, her tone feigning gratitude. Without a word, I transferred the payment directly to her landlord. One day, as I made yet another transfer, something snapped. "Mom, is that a new handbag?" Mark's voice startled me. I looked up to see Gemma proudly showing off a designer bag. How could she afford it if she was struggling with rent? The realization hit me like a slap. My support wasn't helping. It was enabling. Mark, oblivious, grinned. "Mom's got the good stuff. Anna, you should treat me too." I found myself questioning why I continued to enable their behavior. I was trapped by a false sense of duty, held hostage by the hope that things might change. Then, out of the blue, Mark suggested something unexpected. "Hey, Anna, let's do something special for your birthday this year. Just the two of us." I blinked in surprise. In our 3 years of marriage, we had never celebrated my birthday together. "I'll plan everything," he said, a rare enthusiasm lighting up his face. "It's your birthday after all." He showed me pictures of luxury hotels, scrolling through his phone with excitement. "How about somewhere nearby, like Napa or Carmel?" I nodded quietly, touched by his sudden effort. For the first time in years, I felt a flicker of hope. "It might be better to book it under your name," he added casually. "You know, for credibility." His words gave me pause, but I brushed it aside, eager for the chance to rekindle our connection. As the trip date approached, Mark's behavior grew strange. I brushed it off at first, but 3 days before the trip, Mark came home earlier than usual. His tone made my heart sink. "There's something I want to talk to you about," he said, sitting down with a forced seriousness. "My mom found a restaurant nearby she really wants to try, so I thought it would be nice to invite her along." I barely whispered the question, feeling an uneasy weight settle in my chest. "Why?" "Come on, Anna. She'd love it. It'll be family time." His words were light, but the undertone was clear. Family meant his mother, his sister, and maybe me. "Oh, and my sister will be coming too," he added, his hesitation betraying his discomfort. His expression made it obvious I'd never been the priority. What was supposed to be my birthday trip, I thought, had somehow morphed into a family affair. He tried to soften it, his voice laced with sympathy. "My sister's husband and she had a big argument, so she could use the break, you know." The rehearsed quality of his explanation only added to my unease. "But this was supposed to be my birthday," I said, my voice trembling with a mix of disbelief and frustration. "What's the problem? It's just family." His tone sharpened, blaming me for resisting. "So what, Anna? Are you really that against having them with us?" His gaze hardened, daring me to argue. I swallowed my response, feeling like another battle had been won, by him. The morning of the trip, Gemma and Heather were waiting by the station as though they'd always planned to come along. "Anna, we're all set to go, right?" Heather's voice held that familiar taunting sweetness. "Isn't this just perfect? A family trip for your birthday." Her words dripped with sarcasm, and with each one, my last ounce of hope crumbled. 3 years of marriage, all my sacrifices, all my hope for a meaningful connection, and this was how it ended up. Waiting quietly on the platform, I closed my eyes, feeling the faint breeze on my cheek. "Oh, Mark, I'd love one of those nice lunches. Heather's voice pierced through the quiet deliberately loud. She looped her arm through Mark's, ignoring me completely. Sure, Mom, I'll pay, Mark said, already focused on them. He held out his hand to me without so much as a glance. I handed over my wallet, feeling the sting of his disregard. I'll have the shrimp stir-fry, just like Mark's order, Heather said with a self-satisfied look as she placed her order. Same for me. Nothing like family enjoying the same thing, huh? Gemma and Heather exchanged smug grins, leaving me on the outside of what was supposed to be my special day. On the train, Mark sat between his mother and sister, with me relegated to a separate seat across the aisle. So Mark, last night was awful. My husband, well, you know how he is, Gemma complained, her voice cutting through the air. I sat quietly, the weight of their words pressing down on me. And Anna, without kids or a career, you wouldn't understand what I go through. True. Anna's got it easy, doesn't she? They both laughed, and Mark gave a small chuckle, as though it was all harmless. By the time we reached the hotel, they had shattered any illusion of a warm birthday celebration. Hello, Mr. James, your reservation includes 2 rooms, the receptionist said. Mark turned to me, a smug smile curling on his lips. Oh, Anna, I only booked 2 rooms. Mom and I will share one, and my sister has her own. Where am I supposed to stay? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. There's enough room for you. But hey, the lobby has some comfy couches. Lucky you, right? He grinned, his words dripping with insincerity. Gemma and Heather laughed openly, not even trying to hide their satisfaction. Look on the bright side, Anna. Better here than outside in the cold like some stray dog, Heather mocked. Mark grabbed my wallet again, extracting a few bills. Don't worry, Anna. We'll grab some drinks in your honor. Without a second glance, he walked off with his mother and sister, leaving me standing alone in the lobby. As they left, a strange calm settled over me. It was a turning point. I took out my phone and sent a quick message to a contact. Is there anything we can help with, Miss James? Yes, actually, I responded, a faint smile tugging at my lips. I spoke to the owner, and he assured me I'd be well accommodated. The hotel staff's demeanor changed instantly, recognizing the hotel owner's name. We're terribly sorry, Miss James. Let me alert the manager immediately. I watched as they scrambled to assist me, finally feeling a hint of satisfaction as they upgraded me to the presidential suite. A private dinner was arranged, and I was treated like the only guest that mattered. By the time Mark and his family realized where I was already enjoying a gourmet meal alone in quiet luxury. Mark sent panicked texts, but I ignored them. His growing frustration added to my quiet triumph. For once, I enjoyed my birthday free from their scrutiny, knowing this was the beginning of my freedom. The next morning, I left the hotel as quietly as I had arrived, having settled everything on Mark's credit card. It was time to take my life back, leaving them to deal with their own pettiness. The staff's polite smiles as I departed made me feel more supported than my own family ever had. On the train back, I turned off my phone, not wanting to be disturbed by the inevitable frenzy awaiting them at the hotel. A few hours later, Mark and his family were in a panic. This has to be a mistake. Just wait a minute. Mark's face went pale as the front desk explained the charges. His realization dawned. His card had maxed out. What kind of woman would do this to her husband? Heather screeched. She's just shameless. How could she leave us here with this bill? The hotel staff calmly informed them that they'd be allowed to settle the bill later, a courtesy thanks to my connections. But they had no idea how badly this would impact their social standing. When I returned home, the house was silent. But for the first time in years, I felt at peace. I opened the curtains to let in the fresh spring sunlight and sat down, breathing deeply, feeling a sense of relief. An hour later, the front door slammed open, followed by Mark's furious voice. Anna, what the hell were you thinking? He demanded, his anger palpable. His mother's high-pitched voice joined in, followed by Gemma's sneering remarks. They raised their voices, trying to humiliate me into submission. I watched them silently, my expression unreadable. Why don't we continue this discussion outside? I suggested calmly, catching them off guard. You wouldn't want the neighbors to hear, would you? They paused, realizing the implications of what I'd said. I walked them out, finally ready to confront everything they'd hidden for so long. By the way, I said, my voice steady, here's the truth about the support I've given your mother these past years. Mark's expression shifted as I explained how I quietly covered Heather's rent for 3 years. That arrangement is over. Heather's face went pale, her earlier arrogance replaced by desperation. But Anna, please, you can't just stop like this, she pleaded. I can, and I already have, I replied coolly. I informed Gemma that her petty posts about me had been well documented and were now shared with her husband, who was already filing for divorce. One by one, they began to understand the weight of their actions and how their dependency on me had led them to this point. A few weeks later, Mark came by to collect the rest of his things. I wore a simple black dress, knowing this was our last goodbye. Can't we start over? He asked, his voice pleading. You spent years treating me like a monster wife. I stepped closer, my voice calm. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. There's no need for me to act like the villain anymore. This is the end. A few days later, I received a package. Inside was one of my cherished embroidery pieces, carefully wrapped with a note. From Mark's niece. Apologies. It was a small but powerful reminder that kindness and understanding didn't come from status or force, but from genuine connection. My embroidery classes began shortly after. I poured myself into teaching, sharing what my mother had taught me. Each time I worked, I felt that deep connection to her spirit. I had finally found my peace, not by forcing anyone to be family, but by building my own circle of support and joy, just as my mother would have wanted. Hi, I'm Olivia, 34 years old and one of the top real estate agents in our city. 5 years ago, I thought I had it all, a thriving career, a seemingly perfect marriage to Mark, and a bright, promising future. But looking back now, I can see the red flags I chose to ignore. Babe, Tommy's just going through a rough patch. He'll pay us back once he's back on his feet, Mark would say whenever his perpetually unemployed brother needed money. That rough patch has been dragging on for 3 years. It wasn't until Sarah, my best friend and fellow realtor, pulled me aside during a house showing that I started to question things. Have you noticed Mark dodging questions about the joint investment account? She asked. What do you mean? I frowned. Every time I bring it up at dinner, he changes the subject. Just keep an eye on things, okay? I brushed it off. Sarah was protective, sometimes overly so. But now, I wish I'd listened sooner. The turning point came last Sunday at Patricia's house, my mother-in-law. I overheard a conversation that made my stomach drop. Mom, I need you to cover for me again. Olivia's been asking about the transfers. Don't worry, sweetie. I'll tell her it was for Tommy's medical bills. She always backs off when it's about health issues. I pretended not to hear, but my mind raced. How many times had they played this game behind my back? Later that evening, my father called. Robert, a self-made construction magnate, was no stranger to hard truths. Princess, I'm worried about those contracts Mark's company is handling for us. Something doesn't add up. Dad, it's fine. Mark knows what he's doing. Just like he knew what he was doing with your house down payment? Dad's voice sharpened. The one he invested in Tommy's food truck business. The sting of that memory hit hard. $50,000 gone. And Tommy never even bought the truck. Mark had sworn he didn't know Tommy would blow the money gambling. Now, I wasn't so sure. That night, I stared at our wedding photo. Mark had looked so sincere, so trustworthy. When he came home, I confronted him. Honey, we need to talk about the credit card statement. Not now, babe. Tommy's having another crisis. He needs us. He always needs us. What about what we need? Don't start. You know family comes first. Funny how it's always your family that comes first. I watched him walk away, phone already pressed to his ear, probably calling Tommy. Sarah's words echoed in my mind. Olivia, you're successful, smart, and strong. Don't let anyone dim your light, not even your husband. That was the moment I started to see clearly. The perfect marriage, the devoted husband, the troubled but well-meaning brother-in-law. It was all a facade, and that facade was about to shatter. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Mark's Uncle James had passed away, leaving him a $2 million inheritance. I'll never forget how Mark's eyes lit up, not with grief, but with something else I couldn't quite place. Baby, we're set for life. We can finally start that family we've been talking about. 2 weeks later, while organizing our home office, I stumbled across the transfer documents. My hands trembled as I read them. The entire inheritance, all $2 million, had been transferred to Tommy's account. What the actual hell is this? I demanded that evening, the papers shaking in my hand. Tommy has a brilliant business idea. It's guaranteed to triple our money. Our money. You didn't even consult me. Look, it's my inheritance, my decision. Besides, your dad's loaded. Why don't you just ask him for your share early? It'll balance everything out. I stared at him stunned. Are you seriously suggesting I ask my father for money because you gave away your inheritance to your deadbeat brother? Don't call him that. At least my family sticks together. I didn't say another word. But in that moment, I knew this wasn't a marriage. It was a sinking ship, and I was the only one who could save myself. Sarah and I spent the next week combing through financial documents. What we uncovered made my stomach churn. Look at these, Sarah said, pointing to her laptop screen. 3 hidden credit cards, all maxed out. And these loan applications. $50,000 here, $30,000 there. None of it registered to your joint accounts. It's all going to Tommy's so-called ventures. She met my gaze, her expression grim. He's been planning this, Olivia. I drove to Patricia's house, hoping for answers. Big mistake. You ungrateful little witch, she snapped as soon as I mentioned the money. After everything we've done for you. Done for me, my voice shook with anger. Your son has been stealing from our marriage for years. Marriage is about sacrifice, she hissed. Tommy needs this chance. His new crypto investment platform will change everything. Crypto. He told Mark it was a chain of gyms. Well, maybe if you weren't so focused on your precious career, you'd understand that family matters. I left Patricia's house in tears, but they weren't sad tears anymore. They were tears of fury. My phone buzzed as I got into the car. It was a text from Tommy. Thanks for believing in me, sis. This investment is going to make us all rich. That night, Mark stumbled into the house, reeking of whiskey. Your father called me today, he said, his words slurred. Did you tell him about the inheritance? No, but maybe I should have. Mark's face darkened. You know what your problem is? You've always been jealous of my relationship with Tommy. Jealous? Of what? His ability to burn through other people's money. He's family, something you clearly don't understand. Family doesn't steal from family, Mark. It's not stealing if it's freely given. His tone turned venomous. Maybe if you weren't such a controlling buy. Don't you dare finish that sentence. My voice was ice. I turned and walked out of the room, my mind racing. Earlier that day, Sarah had said something that stuck with me. Olivia, this isn't just about the inheritance anymore. This is about years of manipulation. And honey, we're just scratching the surface. She was right. I was done being the understanding wife. It was time to uncover the full truth. The next day, I sat in Michael's office, a forensic accountant Sarah had introduced me to. Bank statements were spread across his desk, and the look on his face told me I wasn't ready for what he'd found. Your joint business account has been systematically drained over the past 3 years, he said. Small amounts at first, then larger withdrawals. How much? Close to $300,000. My hands trembled. That's impossible. I would have noticed. Not if someone was doctoring the statements. Michael pulled up more files. Look here, these are digital alterations. And these? He pointed to a new set of documents. 5 failed businesses under Tommy's name. A juice bar, a CrossFit gym, a food delivery app, all funded by money siphoned from various accounts, including your father's construction company. My heart sank. My father's company? Your husband's position at his marketing firm gave him access to contract details. See these inflated marketing costs? The excess funds were funneled to shell companies owned by Tommy. Sarah squeezed my hand. There's more, isn't there? Michael nodded grimly. Tommy's new crypto platform. It's targeting seniors, promising 300% returns and guaranteed retirement funds. My phone buzzed. A text from Mark. Did you talk to your dad about the inheritance yet? I typed back, working on it. He seems open to the idea. The lie tasted bitter, but I needed time. Every night after Mark fell asleep, I photographed documents, recorded conversations, and backed up everything to a secure cloud account. Later that week, I overheard Tommy on the phone at Patricia's house. The old folks are eating it up, he said, his voice smug. This crypto thing is genius. Who knew retirees had so much cash? Just be careful, Patricia warned. Remember what happened with the gym scam in Colorado. Mom, chill. Mark cleaned up all traces of that. His position at the marketing firm makes everything look legit. I slipped out, nauseous. At home, I found Mark at the computer, deleting emails. "What's this about a gym in Colorado?" I asked, my voice sharp. He froze. "Who told you about that?" "Does it matter? How many people did you scam there?" "It wasn't a scam. The investors knew the risks. Like the seniors you're scamming now." His face darkened. "You've been snooping." "Somebody had to. You stole from our business account." "I borrowed it. Tommy's platform will pay everything back." "Like the juice bar did? Or the food delivery app?" "You don't understand business." "No, I understand it perfectly. I also understand fraud." Mark grabbed my arm. "You better keep your mouth shut." "Or what? You'll steal more money? Get Patricia to lie for you again." His phone rang. Tommy had more investors lined up, ready to sink their hard-earned retirement funds into his scam. I watched Mark leave the house, already rehearsing his sales pitch. It was like watching a tragic play, one I was finally ready to bring down. I called Michael. "I need everything you have on the Colorado gym scandal." "Already found it," he replied. "Patricia helped cover up losses of over $500,000. Senior citizens lost their savings there too." "Send me everything," I said. Moments later, Sarah texted me. "Are you sure you want to know how deep this goes?" "I need to know everything, every lie, every scam, every cent they stole," I replied. I glanced at our wedding photo again. Once, it symbolized a golden future, built on trust and love. Now, I saw it for what it was, a facade. But I wasn't that naive woman anymore. Their house of cards was about to collapse. The next day, I made my move. "What do you mean you can't access the account?" Mark's voice echoed through the kitchen, laced with frustration. "There's a security hold on the transfer," he said into his phone. What he didn't know was that I had already moved every cent from our joint accounts to new ones he couldn't touch. The look on his face when he realized he was powerless was priceless. That same morning, Tommy's crypto platform began to unravel. One of their helpless senior citizen investors turned out to be a retired FBI agent specializing in financial crimes. "The feds are sniffing around," Tommy shouted into the phone, his voice frantic. "We need to shut everything down." But it was too late. Mark's company had already launched an internal audit after years of doctored contracts, and inflated invoices finally came to light. I'd made sure they received an anonymous tip about the Colorado gym scandal too. "You're fired, effective immediately," his boss told him. "The FBI will be in contact regarding the fraud charges." By the end of the week, the inheritance money was gone, and Tommy's crypto platform had collapsed, taking every last cent with it, including Patricia's retirement savings. She had invested heavily in her precious son's scheme. I filed for divorce the same day Tommy was arrested. Mark showed up at my office later, desperate and disheveled. "Baby, please, we can fix this. I've changed. Like you changed after the juice bar scam or the gym scandal." That was different. I was trying to help Tommy. "And now you can help him by visiting him in federal prison." The last I heard, Mark was living in Patricia's basement, working the night shift at a gas station. Tommy got 8 years for fraud. Their perfect little family scam had finally imploded. As for me, Dad made me head of real estate for his construction company. We're expanding into 3 new states. One day, I saw Mark at the gas station. He was in his polyester uniform, looking shabby and worn. "Olivia, wait," he called, jogging toward me. "Just 5 minutes, please. I had time to think. I know I messed up, but we could start over." I looked at him, really looked. The designer suits were gone, replaced by cheap fabric. The confident smile I once fell for was now desperate and pleading. "The thing about second chances, Mark," I said, "is they're for people who learn from their first mistakes, not for those who spend years perfecting their scams." "I've changed, I swear." "No, you haven't. You're just sorry you got caught." I walked away, his voice calling after me. 5 years ago, I might have turned around, but I wasn't that woman anymore. As Sarah and I drove off, she grinned. "Commercial property's looking pretty good right now, huh?" "Everything's looking pretty good right now," I said. And for the first time in years, it truly was. If you discovered your spouse had secretly transferred their entire $2 million inheritance to fund a family member's scams, what would you do? Would you stay quiet and gather evidence like I did, or confront them immediately and risk losing the chance to expose their entire web of lies? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hey, everyone. My name is Olivia. I'm 32 years old and a graphic designer at Rise and Shine Advertising. Today, I need to share something I've kept buried for far too long. Something that started unraveling my life 3 years ago. Back then, I thought I had it all. My career was thriving and I was married to Marcus, a man who seemed like a dream, running his own construction business. Looking back now, I can't believe how blind I was to the red flags. It all started innocently enough. Baby, we should combine our accounts, Marcus suggested over dinner one night. It'll be easier to manage our finances, especially when we start a family. I hesitated. I've always handled my own money. Don't you trust me? We're partners now. That's how it began. Little by little, my financial independence eroded. And then they entered the picture. Marcus's sisters. Diana, Rachel, and Sarah. I call them the toxic trio now. Diana was always in a crisis. My ex won't pay child support again, she'd sob. I don't know how I'll make rent. Rachel would sigh dramatically. This job market is impossible. I just need a little help until my next interview. And Sarah, she always had a scheme. I found an amazing investment opportunity, guaranteed returns. At first, I wanted to believe Marcus was just helping family, but my best friend Jade noticed something was off. Olivia, why are you bringing lunch from home when you make good money? She asked over coffee. Something's not adding up. Marcus says we need to budget. His sisters are going through rough times, I'd say, defending him. We're just being careful. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Even my boss, Carlos, noticed. Your work is outstanding, Olivia, but you seem stressed. Is everything okay? I brushed it off. Just tired. But the breaking point came last week. I stood at the bus stop, digging through my purse for change. I make $75,000 a year, yet I couldn't afford a $2.50 bus fare. That night, I confronted Marcus. We need to talk about our finances. Not now, babe. Diana needs help with her mortgage again, he said, brushing me off. I couldn't get to work today. I'm out of money. You're being selfish. They're family. Besides, I handle the money. You're not good with numbers. That night, I lay in bed listening to him make more promises to his sisters over the phone with my money. 3 years. 3 years of my salary disappearing while his family lived comfortably. I couldn't even afford new socks. But I'm done being quiet. I'm done being their ATM. Then came the discovery that shattered everything. Olivia, we need to talk, Jade said, pulling me into her office at the bank. Her voice was tight with concern. I looked into something, and you're not going to like what I found. My heart pounded as she laid out the bank statements. Every month, my entire paycheck was being split between 3 accounts. These belong to his sisters, don't they? Jade's voice was gentle. I felt sick. 2 years. Over $150,000. Gone. I trusted him. That night, while Marcus was at a business meeting, I searched his office. Hidden in a drawer were letters, loan applications, and credit card statements with my forged signature. As I tried to process the betrayal, my mother-in-law called. You wouldn't believe what Diana just told me. Marcus helped her book another Vegas trip. Vegas. Well, I counted quarters for lunch. Honey, you okay? Marcus walked in, noticing my pale face. Just tired. Work stuff, I lied, forcing a smile. Inside, I wondered how many times he'd smiled at me while weaving his web of lies. At work the next day, Carlos found me crying in the break room. Olivia, you haven't been yourself. What's going on? I looked up at him, tears streaming. I can barely afford to eat. But Marcus's sister just went to Vegas with my money. Carlos leaned back in his chair, watching me closely. That explains why you turned down the conference in Chicago. Listen, we're expanding the remote team. Better pay, full benefits. Think about it. Later that week, I met Rosa, Marcus's ex-wife, at a small diner. I had to know more. I was hoping you'd reach out eventually, she said, stirring her coffee. Let me guess. The sisters? I nodded, heart pounding. You too, huh? Those parasites drained my accounts dry. But Marcus, he's the mastermind. The sisters? They're just his cover. He did the same thing to me, forged signatures, secret loans, the whole circus. How did you find out? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. the same way you are now, piece by piece until the whole ugly puzzle comes together. As if on cue, my phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Hey sis, need a small favor. Got this amazing crypto opportunity. I took a deep breath. How much this time? Just $5,000. Guaranteed returns. Marcus said you just got a bonus. That night, I overheard Marcus on the phone. Yeah, I transferred Olivia's bonus to you. No, she doesn't know. Just keep quiet about the business loans. What do you mean the contractor's threatening to sue? I'll handle it. I pretended to be asleep when he came to bed, my mind racing. The next morning, I started recording everything. Every phone call, every conversation, every loan request. Your business partner called about the missing payments I mentioned casually over dinner. Marcus's fork froze mid-air. Don't worry about that. The business is fine. But his eyes told a different story. And Diana's Vegas trip. Oh, she won some contest. More lies. I knew then that this went far beyond my missing salary. I needed to find out just how deep this rabbit hole went. I began keeping a detailed log, dates, amounts, conversations. Each entry was another nail in the coffin of my marriage. The picture it painted was worse than I imagined, but for the first time in years, I felt something besides helpless. I felt dangerous. Jade was relentless in her support. You need a new bank account like yesterday, she said, sliding paperwork across her desk. One he doesn't know about at a different bank. But I have no money saved. How am I supposed to rent a place? First things first. Every journey starts with small steps. She leaned forward, determined. I've got an emergency fund with your name on it. Pay me back when you're settled. Jade, I can't. You can, and you will. That's what best friends do. Besides, I want front row seats when karma hits your dear husband. Over the next few weeks, I became a ghost in my own life. Every lunch break was a mission. Monday, secured a P.O. box. Tuesday, copied all the forged documents. Wednesday, apartment hunting. It felt impossible, until Carlos called me into his office. About that remote position. It starts whenever you're ready. Double your current salary. I nearly cried. That's incredible, but I still need to figure out where to live. Carlos smiled. Actually, my sister Maria owns several apartment buildings. I told her about your situation. Carlos, I can't afford. First month's free. Security deposit in installments. Rent straight from your new salary. She helps women in situations like yours. It's a third-floor unit in a safe neighborhood, security system included. Perfect for starting over. The universe was finally conspiring in my favor. Back home, the circus continued. Rachel sobbed on my couch. Olivia, please, I just need $2,000 for my car payment. Didn't Marcus give you money last week? I asked, keeping my voice calm. She hesitated. Well, yes, but... The panic in her eyes told me everything. I excused myself, pretending to take a work call, but really I was recording every word. That evening, the kitchen turned into a confession booth. Marcus, the bank's asking questions. Sarah snapped. We need to move the investment money somewhere else. Keep your voice down. Olivia might hear. Who cares? She's too busy working her little design job. Diana laughed. That little job is funding your entire lifestyle. I typed everything into my evidence file, hands shaking with rage. I'm taking a business trip next weekend, Marcus announced at dinner. Just 3 days. Big client in Phoenix. Perfect. The moment his flight took off, my plan launched. Jade helped coordinate with 2 movers she trusted. 4 hours, that's all it took to pack up my life. Take the expensive stuff he bought with your money, Jade advised. It's legally yours. I left my wedding ring on the kitchen counter, along with a letter addressed to Marcus's parents. Inside was everything. Bank statements, forged loan documents, and a detailed account of their son's betrayal. I wanted them to know the truth and to have proof. That night, as I sat on my inflatable mattress in my new apartment, courtesy of Jade, my phone began to explode with messages. Sarah, investment opportunity, major returns. Call me. Diana, we're family. How could you? Rachel, baby, whatever you think, we can fix this. Marcus, the bank called. What did you do? I blocked them all. The next morning, I walked into my new remote position wearing a fresh outfit, purchased with my first expedited paycheck. My phone buzzed. A news alert. Local investment scheme under investigation. Carlos noticed my smile. You okay? I met his gaze confidently. Never better. As I glanced at my reflection in the office window, I didn't see a victim anymore. I saw someone who had chosen survival. And the best part? Marcus and his sisters had no idea I'd been documenting their every move, ready to use it all against them. That evening, the news anchor's voice filled my living room. Local construction company owner Marcus Reynolds faces multiple fraud charges. Sources say the investigation began after evidence of a complex investment scheme surfaced. My phone rang. It was Rosa. Are you watching this? She asked, her voice almost gleeful. Every second. Sarah just got picked up by the FBI. Turns out their investment club was a Ponzi scheme. They're all going down. I poured myself a glass of wine, sinking deeper into my couch as another alert flashed across the screen. Local investment scam expands, affecting dozens of victims. 3 sisters and a local businessman face potential prison time. The screen switched to their mugshots, designer clothes replaced by orange jumpsuits. Then I spoke directly to my audience. What would you do if you discovered your spouse wasn't just stealing your entire salary, but also using your identity to fund their family's luxurious lifestyle? Would you quietly gather evidence like I did, or would you confront them immediately? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I paused, letting my words sink in. Some say I was too calculating, that I should have confronted Marcus and his sisters right away. Others might think I went too easy on them by letting the law handle it. What do you think? Was my revenge too cold or not cold enough? I leaned closer to the camera. Hi, everyone. My name is Mary, a 29-year-old marketing executive living in the heart of Chicago. I'm 6 months into married life with my amazing husband, William, a brilliant software engineer. Together, we've built our dream home, a sleek, modern apartment that feels like a slice of heaven after long, busy days at work. Babe, have you seen my laptop charger? William called out one morning, rushing around in his usual pre-work frenzy. Check the drawer in the entryway, I replied, sipping my coffee as I admired our carefully curated living room. Every piece of furniture had been a joint decision, reflecting our shared taste and values. Just as William unearthed his charger, a sharp knock echoed through the apartment. My stomach sank. I knew that knock. Susan, I muttered to William, plastering on a smile as he opened the door. In waltzed William's grandmother, all 75 years of her, with her ever-present air of judgment. She surveyed our minimalist decor with a raised brow. Oh, still keeping the place like a spaceship, I see, she remarked, disdain dripping from her words. I bit my tongue and forced a polite smile. Good morning, Susan. Would you like some coffee? No, thank you, dear, she said, waving her hand dismissively. Who knows what fancy concoctions you youngsters put in coffee these days? Probably something that would upset my stomach. William jumped in, trying to ease the tension. Grandma, we were just about to head to work. Do you need something? Susan scoffed. Can't a grandmother check on her grandson without needing something? I just wanted to see if he finally added some warmth to this place. I couldn't help myself. We love our home, Susan. It's exactly how we want it. Of course you do, dear, she replied with a condescending pat on my arm. You'll learn as you get older. As Susan continued her uninvited inspection of our apartment, William pulled me aside. I'm sorry, he whispered. You know how she is. I nodded, swallowing my frustration. Her visits were becoming more frequent, and my patience was wearing thin. That evening, while packing for an upcoming business trip, the dreaded question came up. Honey, William began hesitantly, do you think we should give Grandma Susan a spare key? You know, just in case of emergencies while we're gone. I froze mid-fold, staring at him. Are you sure that's necessary? We're only going to be gone for a week. I know, he said, but it would make her feel better. And who knows? Maybe we'll need someone to water the plants or something. I sighed, knowing this wasn't a battle worth fighting. All right, but make sure she knows it's for emergencies only. The next morning, as we headed out, Susan arrived to collect the key. Don't you worry about a thing, she said, her smile a little too bright and a glint in her eye that made me uneasy. I'll take good care of your home. As the taxi pulled away, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling we'd made a mistake, but I pushed it aside, focusing on the trip ahead. Little did I know that decision would set off a chain of events I never could have imagined. After a grueling week of meetings and presentations, William and I returned, dragging our suitcases down the hallway. "I can't wait to crash on the couch," William groaned, fumbling with the key. As soon as we stepped inside, something felt off. The air was heavy, with an odd, musty smell. "Did you leave a light on?" I asked, noticing a warm glow of lamps instead of our usual cool LEDs. "No," he replied, confused. I flipped on the main light and gasped. Our sleek, modern living room was gone. In its place stood heavy, ornate antique furniture, straight out of a Victorian mansion. "What the hell?" William muttered, frozen in place. "This isn't a mistake," I snapped, my shock quickly turning to fury. "This is Susan. She's gone too far this time." William's face paled as realization dawned. William stared at me, his voice trembling. "But why would she do this?" "Because she's never respected our choices," I snapped. "She's always criticized our style, our lifestyle, and now she's crossed the line by violating our home." My hand shot toward my phone. "We need to call her right now." William grabbed my arm, his voice calm but firm. "Wait, Mary. It's late. Maybe we should sleep on this and approach her calmly tomorrow." "Calmly?" I echoed, incredulous. "Are you kidding me? She broke into our home and stole our things." "She's still my grandmother," he replied weakly. "And I'm your wife. William, don't you get it? Our home has been violated." Our voices rose as we argued, our emotions raw and tangled. William wanted to handle the situation diplomatically, fearing family repercussions, while I was consumed with a need for justice. "Fine," I spat, crossing my arms. "We'll do it your way. But first thing tomorrow, we're confronting her." Fuming, I stomped to the bathroom to wash up. As I passed the trash can, something caught my eye. My heart stopped. Trembling, I reached in and pulled out the shattered remains of a delicate porcelain vase. My mother's vase. The only thing I had left of her. "No, no, no, no," I whispered, cradling the broken pieces as tears streamed down my face. "Mary, what's wrong?" William appeared in the doorway, his concern etched across his face. I looked up at him, my voice breaking. "She broke my mom's vase, William. She threw it away, like it was nothing." The color drained from William's face as he knelt beside me. "That's it," I said, my voice cold with fury. "I don't care what time it is. We're calling Susan now, and we're getting our things back. All of it." William nodded, the weight of his grandmother's actions finally sinking in. The next morning, we sat through a tense, silent breakfast, picking at food neither of us could stomach. Suddenly, the jingle of keys at the door broke the silence, and in waltzed Susan, a triumphant smile on her face. "Good morning, dears. I hope you love what I've done with the place. It's so much more homey now, isn't it?" I stood slowly, my hands clenched into fists. "Homey? You call this homey? You broke into our apartment and stole our things." Susan's smile faltered. "Broke in. I used the key you gave me, and I didn't steal anything. I improved this sterile box you call a home." "Improved?" I snapped. "You replaced everything without our permission. You threw away our belongings." William stepped between us, his tone measured but firm. "Grandma, we appreciate that you were trying to help, but this wasn't okay. You can't just change someone's home without asking." Susan waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, you young people are so sensitive. I was doing you a favor. These antiques are worth a fortune." "We don't want your antiques," I shouted. "We want our things back. Where are they?" "Now, dear," Susan said, her tone condescending, "no need to get hysterical. This is much better for you both. In fact," she turned to William, her expression softening, "I've been meaning to talk to you about your choice in partners." William's eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" Susan placed a hand on his arm. "Sweetheart, I've seen how she treats you, always pushing her modern ideas, never respecting tradition. You'd be much better off with someone who appreciates family values." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you seriously trying to break us up over furniture?" "It's not just about furniture," Susan snapped. "It's about respect, something you clearly lack." I laughed bitterly. "Respect? You're the one who violated our home and our trust." William stepped back, shaking his head. His voice was cold when he spoke. "Grandma, is this true? Have you been trying to turn me against Mary?" Susan's face hardened. "I'm only looking out for your best interests, dear. This girl isn't right for you." Something in William snapped. "No, Grandma, you're not looking out for me. You're trying to control me. And Mary isn't just some girl, she's my wife. And I love her. William, don't be ridiculous. You can't possibly. Enough! William's voice thundered, silencing both Susan and me. I want you to leave, Grandma, now, and don't come back. Susan's face turned red with fury. You ungrateful brat. After everything I've done for you. Fine, have it your way. But don't come crawling back when she ruins your life. And you can forget about your inheritance. With that, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The silence that followed was deafening. William and I stood there, shell-shocked. I'm so sorry, William whispered, pulling me into a hug. I had no idea she was capable of this. I held him tightly, relief and sadness washing over me. It's not your fault, but what do we do now? The next few hours were a whirlwind of assessing the damage. Many of our belongings were gone, and others were damaged beyond repair. But nothing stung more than the loss of my mother's vase. We need to file a police report, I said finally. I know she's your grandmother, but this is theft and destruction of property. William nodded grimly. You're right, it won't be easy since we gave her the key, but we have to try. In the months that followed, we decided we needed a fresh start, far from the memories and the drama. Chicago had become a battleground, and we were ready to reclaim our peace. When William's company offered him a promotion in Seattle, it felt like fate giving us a fresh start. Are you sure about this? William asked as we packed up the last of our belongings in Chicago. It's a big move. I smiled, feeling more confident than I had in months. I'm sure. This is our chance to build something new together. Seattle welcomed us with open arms. Our new apartment boasted a stunning view of the Space Needle, and we took our time furnishing it, carefully choosing pieces that reflected both our styles. It felt like the home we'd always dreamed of, one built on mutual respect and love. As William settled into his new role, I decided to take a leap of faith and start my own marketing consultancy. All the frustration and anger I'd harbored towards Susan, I channeled into building my business. You're going to crush it, William said, kissing me on the cheek as I prepped for my first client meeting. And crush it I did. Within 6 months, I had a full roster of clients and was earning more than I ever had at my old job. Through the grapevine, we heard that Susan was spinning her own version of events back in Chicago. One day, William's cousin called, her voice laced with concern. Grandma's telling everyone you two are ungrateful and cruel, she said. But don't worry, none of us believe her. We've all had our own run-ins with her helpfulness. It was a relief to know that not everyone bought into Susan's narrative. In fact, her antics had driven many family members to reach out to us with support. A year after the move, William and I were sitting on our perfect couch, admiring our new home. The space was a beautiful blend of modern and traditional, a true reflection of us both. Can you believe how far we've come? I asked, snuggling into William's side. It's been quite a journey, he replied, squeezing my hand. But I wouldn't change a thing. Well, except maybe giving Grandma that spare key. We laughed, the pain of that chapter dulled by time and distance. The next day, we received an unexpected call from William's dad. You won't believe this, he said, his tone a mix of shock and something else. Your grandmother's been scammed. She's lost nearly all her savings. Apparently, Susan had fallen victim to fraudsters who preyed on her need for control, convincing her to invest in a scheme promising to teach ungrateful youth the value of tradition. When William hung up the phone, we sat in silence for a moment, processing the news. I don't feel happy about this, I admitted quietly. Just a strange sense of karmic justice. You okay? I asked, watching William's face carefully. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I am. It's sad, but it feels like the universe is balancing things out, you know? I nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. We didn't celebrate Susan's downfall, but neither could we deny the poetic nature of it all. As I reflected on everything we'd been through, the pain, the anger, the fresh start, I realized it had all led us to this moment. We were stronger, wiser, and happier than ever. If you were in my shoes, would you have confronted Susan immediately or taken William's diplomatic approach? And how would you have handled the aftermath, cut all ties, or try to maintain some family connection? If you enjoyed this story of overcoming toxic family dynamics, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life drama. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Hi, everyone. I'm Sandra, a 33-year-old marketing executive at Thompson and Partners. Today, I want to share how I escaped my toxic in-laws and rebuilt my life. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for the ending. 2 years ago, I thought I found my fairy tale. I met Jack Bennett at the annual Children's Hospital Charity Gala. Charming, successful, and seemingly aligned with my values, Jack swept me off my feet. Our whirlwind romance was a dream. Fancy dinners, surprise weekend getaways, and within 6 months, we were married. "You're exactly what this family needs, dear," his mother, Linda, gushed during my first dinner with the Bennetts. Someone bright and modern to shake things up. She welcomed me warmly, offering advice on family dynamics and always wearing a pleasant smile. But then there was Robert Bennett, Jack's father, a wealthy real estate mogul who ran his family like one of his businesses. From the start, his views were clear. "A working wife in our family?" He scoffed during our first meeting. "Jack, shouldn't you be making enough to support her?" "Dad, times have changed," Jack defended, though his voice wavered. "Sandra's career is important to her." Jack's sister Sarah and her husband Tom tried to warn me during our engagement party. "Sandra, you seem great, but you need to know what you're getting into," Sarah whispered. "Dad's controlling, especially with money." "He almost sabotaged my startup," Tom added. "Thought it would take too much attention away from the family business." I dismissed their concerns. I had my own life, my own career, and my best friends, Emma and David, who kept me grounded. "Girl, your father-in-law gives me the creeps," Emma said one day over sushi. "The way he grilled you about your Nordstrom purchases at dinner? Red flag." "He's just showing interest," I replied, though I was starting to see those red flags myself. Weekly dinners at the Bennett mansion became a battleground. Robert would make pointed comments about proper wives and managing households full-time. "By the way, Sandra, I noticed you bought a new car," he announced one evening. "Don't you think that's a bit extravagant for someone in your position?" "Do you mean my position as a senior marketing executive or as your daughter-in-law?" I shot back. Jack, as usual, avoided eye contact, focusing intently on his mashed potatoes. Linda would try to mediate, her smile strained as she glanced at Robert for approval before speaking. "We're just looking out for your best interests," Robert would say, his smile never reaching his eyes. After these dinners, Jack and I would drive home in silence. "He means well," Jack would finally murmur. "That's just how Dad shows he cares." But I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd married into something far more complicated than I'd imagined. It all came to a head during a family dinner last month. I had just received a major promotion, and Linda insisted on celebrating with my favorite lasagna, despite Robert's disapproval. "I suppose even little achievements deserve recognition," Robert sneered, pushing his plate away. "Though real success comes from building something lasting, like my empire." "My marketing campaign increased client revenue by 40%, I countered. "That seems pretty lasting to me." His face turned red. In one swift motion, he swept his plate off the table, sending lasagna splattering across the expensive dining room floor. "Well, since you're so capable at work," he growled, "why don't you show us how capable you are at cleaning? That's what real wives do." I sat frozen, stunned. Jack just gripped his fork, knuckles white. "Jack," I whispered, pleading. Maybe just help clean up," he muttered. "You know how Dad gets." That night, Linda called me in tears. "I'm so sorry, dear," she sobbed. He's not usually like this." "Actually, he is," Sarah interrupted during our emergency coffee meetup the next morning. Her voice was sharp, her expression grim. "Remember my first husband? Dad basically orchestrated our divorce because he didn't fit the Bennett image. And that's not even the worst part." She pulled out her phone, scrolling quickly. "Tom found something in the company records," she said, pushing the screen toward me. "Dad's been moving money around, including from your joint accounts with Jack." My hands shook as I opened my banking app. Sure enough, large sums had been withdrawn and invested in Robert's projects, all authorized by Jack. "Why did you tell me?" I confronted Jack that evening, holding out the evidence. "Dad knows what he's doing with money," Jack said defensively. "He's just protecting our future by stealing from us." "It's not stealing if it's family," he replied, parroting his father's words like a dutiful son. The next blow came from Emma at work. "Sandra, you need to see this," she said, pulling me into a conference room. She showed me an email thread between Robert and our company's board members. In the messages, Robert questioned my stability and suitability for leadership. He's been reaching out to your major clients too, David added, his tone furious. Undermining your projects. I confronted Jack again. Dad's just protective of the family reputation, he said with a shrug. Maybe if you tried harder to fit in. Fit in? Like your mother, afraid to breathe without his permission. Don't talk about my family like that, Jack snapped. Our family, Jack. I'm your wife. Then act like it. The chasm between us widened. Jack spent more time at his parents' house while I threw myself into work. But Robert's influence reached everywhere. Clients began pulling out, citing vague leadership concerns. My hands are tied, my boss said in a closed-door meeting. Your father-in-law's been busy. Desperate, I called Sarah. How did you survive this? I sobbed. I didn't, she admitted. Not until I stopped trying to please him. But Sandra, this goes beyond family drama. Tom found evidence that Dad's been using company funds to bribe city officials. He's running a criminal empire. The next weeks were a whirlwind. Tom unearthed more damning documents, transactions linking Robert to shell companies, money laundering, and fraud. I started keeping meticulous records of every interaction, every email, every comment, every suspicious bank transfer. One afternoon, I found Linda alone in the garden, her hands trembling as she tended to the flowers. I should have warned you, she whispered. 40 years of this. He controls everything, my credit cards, my phone, even my mother's nursing home payments. I tried to leave once, back in '95. He threatened to ruin my brother's business. The final blow came when I checked my personal account, the one I had long before marrying Jack. Nearly $50,000 was gone. I gave Dad access, Jack admitted when I confronted him again. He said it was for our future. For the family? I laughed bitterly. Jack, we're not the Rockefellers. We're victims of your father's ego. Everything erupted at the next family dinner. Robert was in the middle of boasting about his latest development project when I cut in. Like how you sacrificed my savings, I said, or Linda's inheritance, or the city contracts you bribed officials for. The room went silent. Robert's face darkened. You ungrateful little. I have proof, I interrupted, meeting his glare. Every transaction, every bribe, every threat. Jack, Robert barked. Control your wife. I turned to Jack, my heart pounding. Please, Jack, look at what he's doing to us. Jack stood slowly. My heart sank. Dad's right, he said. You've changed, Sandra. You're not the woman I married. No, I replied, rising to my feet. I'm stronger than the woman you married, and I'm done. If you walk out that door, Robert growled, you'll have nothing. I'll make sure of it. Actually, Tom said, stepping forward, she has everything. Copies of all the documents, bank records, witness statements. You betray family, Robert sputtered. No, Sarah said coldly. We're protecting family from you. I walked out of the Bennett mansion that night for the last time. Emma and David were waiting outside, my belongings already packed in their car. I filed for divorce this morning, I told them as we drove away. What about all the evidence? Emma asked. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Oh, I have plans for that. Robert wants to play games. Let's play. 6 months later, I sat in my new corner office, sipping coffee as I watched Robert's empire crumble in real time on CNBC. Breaking news. Bennett Real Estate under federal investigation. My marketing skills had come in handy, not for covering up scandals like Robert had hoped, but for rebuilding my career. I started my own consulting firm, focusing on ethical business practices. The irony wasn't lost on me, turning a lessons learned from Robert's corrupt empire into a foundation for integrity. Did you see the news? Sarah called, her voice electric with excitement. Mom finally did it. She filed for divorce. Linda had called me just last week, her voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. You showed me it was possible to start over, she'd said. I hired a lawyer. I'm taking half of everything. My phone buzzed with another text, this time from Jack. Baby, please, Dad's company is falling apart. He's not himself. We need you back. I deleted it without responding. Last I heard, Jack had been fired from 3 jobs after word got out about his role in Daddy's schemes. The evidence Tom and I had uncovered was damning. Fake companies, embezzled funds, and decades of fraud, all exposed. Robert's carefully curated reputation crumbled faster than his bank accounts. "Miss Carson, your 2 o'clock is here," my assistant said, poking her head into my office. "Mrs. Bennet?" I asked. "Miss Linda Matthews now," she corrected with a smile. Linda looked years younger as she stepped into my office. She sat across from me, her posture poised and her eyes bright. "I never thought I'd be starting over at 60, she said. "But here I am. Will you help me sort out my finances?" "Of course," I replied warmly. That's what family does, real family. Later that evening, I joined my family for our weekly dinner. It was nothing like those tense nights at the Bennett mansion. Around the table, Sarah, Tom, Emma, and David raised their glasses. "To karma," Emma toasted, grinning. "To freedom," Linda added, her smile radiant. My phone lit up with a news alert. Bennett real estate CEO Robert Bennett faces criminal charges. I glanced outside where the sun was setting, painting the sky in rich hues of orange and pink. My new campaign had launched to rave reviews. My firm was thriving. Next week, I was scheduled to speak at a women's empowerment conference about financial independence and resilience. "You know," Linda said as we strolled to grab dessert, "I wasted 40 years being afraid. You saved me from wasting 40 more." I squeezed her hand, my heart full. Robert had tried to destroy me, but instead he'd made me stronger. He thought family was about control. He never understood that real family is about love. And love, unlike his empire, was something he couldn't corrupt. What would you do if you discovered your spouse was helping their parents steal your savings? Would you try to save the marriage or, like me, recognize the betrayal as too deep to forgive? Share your thoughts in the comments below.